wanted to provide an observation or a little bit of descriptive nature on something that we saw on the first day we had good moon views. This was when we saw more of the near side, and the ground helped me out with identifying Mare Imbrium. Mare Imbrium, when you have the western limb also in view, looks completely different than the normal view we have of the near side. It is the most striking feature of the western limb view that we had, and the mountain chains that form its eastern side are very prominent, but they actually stand out more than I'm used to seeing even on the western side, and the whole thing just feels like a big bump. It actually looks like a large healing wound with a high albedo forming the mountain chain around the impact basin. And I just don't think I had enough chance to describe how striking it was on that western limb view as we were coming in a couple days ago.
Christina, science, absolutely love that, especially since that's a feature that all of us here on Earth can observe from home. So I'm sure tonight everyone's going to be going out and looking for evidence of that beautiful topography you just said. Thanks for that.
অন্য কোনো ব্রাউজার থেকে আমাদের চ্যানেলে যে একটু ঢুকতো মোবাইল থেকেও দেখতে পারো
ভাই নাম কি নট ইওর অ্যাস্ট্রোলজি
ইয়েস মাঝখানে স্পেস দিস না তাহলে খুঁজে পাবি সহজ
নাই ভাই কিছুই নাই
এবার ঠিক আছে ইয়াপ আসছে এখন ঠিক আছে
ফাইনালি
দিহান কই দিহান
No audio. Okay, next. This is 2999.
The view on your screen coming from Orion, a camera mounted on the spacecraft's solar array wing. Toward the right of your screen, the near side is the hemisphere we see from Earth. That is identifiable by those dark splotches, which are ancient lava flows.
Science integrity. A question and a comment. Question is it possible that we're seeing the Schrodinger Basin from this vantage point in the Terminator at the South Pole? And the comment is the rays coming out of Ohm are less distinct. We are not seeing the bright rays coming out of it, but the sort of 9 o'clock wedge that is formed by the change in albedo from the interior portion that is to the northeast to the surrounding lighter Mare that's 270 degrees to the west. That 90 is very distinct. You got some great descriptions from the two at the window about the colors in there, but in that darker part of that wedge, you've got some really interesting color, even though the rays, difference in the albedo almost look like rays, but it's not the rays coming out, it's the just change in that albedo.
Integrity science, that is very intriguing. Those
color
rays rather than sort of albedo. And as answer to your question, we do not think you can see Schrodinger. It's in darkness as of now.
আমরা যে প্রশ্নটা করেছিলাম যে চাঁদ এবং পৃথিবীর মাঝখানে কয়টা প্ল্যানেট আছে আমার তো অরায়ন এবং চাঁদের মাঝখানে কয়টা আসবে অনেক দূরত্ব
ফিট হবে নাকি এখন
nice crater.
Thanks,
I have a
Asif.
lot of pictures of it. What would be right in the Terminator?
কয়টা বাজে এখন তোদের এখানে? বাংলাদেশে বাজে হচ্ছে 2টা,
Where's
1:40।
intersecting the Terminator right now?
40 মানে হচ্ছে
Yeah, Victor, we're assuming you're talking
না,
about, you know, kind of if
Well,
you're looking at the Terminator, it's basically like 70% down from the North Pole. Is that where you're looking?
এটা কি?
Uranus, no, Uranus 51,000 kilometers. So Uranus is
Contact, yes, that is where I'm looking.
Uranus is এক ধাপ ছোট কে Neptune.
Integrity Houston, that is an enabled caution for wastewater dump required. We have hit our limit as expected. No crew action.
Neptune আর আর্থের মাঝে মনে হয় সাইজের কোনো ইয়ে নেই।
Copy, no crew action.
ওকে স্যার একজন ক্রু দুইজন করে ক্রু সবাই 18 মিনিট 45 সেকেন্ড করে
You are
কাজ করে
And integrity science, we're trying to figure out what you're
You're
looking
gonna
at there.
need
Is
45
it like
seconds.
right on the Terminator, or is it in the eliminated portion next to the Terminator?
মেটা
রেডার জার্নি তারপর শিফট টু মাঝখানটা দেওয়া আছে শিফট টু
রেটার জেনে হচ্ছে কানাডিয়ান বোধহয়।
তো আমাদের সোলার সিস্টেমে হচ্ছে আর্থের চেয়ে বড় আর নেপচুনের চেয়ে ছোট কোনো প্ল্যানেট নাই। আর নেপচুন হচ্ছে আর্থের থেকে 4 গুণ ডায়ামিটার বেশি। ডায়ামিটার 4 গুণ বেশি মানে হচ্ছে ম্যাসের দিক দিয়ে 64 times.
While we wait for a response from the crew, the Terminator is that difference between day
Max
and
16.9
night,
is
or
also
brightness and darkness that you see on the moon.
ম্যাক্স সততার হিসাব করে লাভ
We
নাই,
see
ওটা তো
this from
আসলে
the
পৃথিবীর
International
ভিতরে।
Space Station as well, looking down at Earth.
Speed of
And
sound
science from integrity, excuse my space orientation adaptation. If you draw a line between Glushko through the center of Oriental, and then another line from Glushko through the southern tangent of Oriental, that line would almost perfectly intersect tangentially the crater that I'm talking about, and it is on the Terminator. So yeah, I think I'm not looking at the South Pole. I was a little twisted.
That line description was really helpful. I have eyes on the SIR right now, and they are actively discussing lunar geography. We will be back with you shortly.
It's marketer position.
7:42 বাজে তো 8:45।
You're hearing a couple of voices today in Mission Control Houston. One of those is Dr. Kelsey Young.
Integrity science, we believe that
এক ঘন্টা পরে হচ্ছে তোর পরায়ণের ভিতরের ছবিগুলো দেখাবে।
Oh, I floated away from the speakers. Say it again,
এরপরে
please.
হয়তো কিছু আছে ওইটা একটু আটকে
we believe that is Zeeman
10:47, 12:47, 12:47 ইস 4:47। 2 ঘন্টা পরে কানেকশন যাবে না, আমাদের ওই পর্যন্ত আর কি লাইভ করতে হবে
What's the first letter of that
যদি
word?
করতে চাই।
Zulu. It's
আমার এখন মানে আমার এখানে 2 ঘন্টা 4 মিনিট, তোদের বোধ 2 ঘন্টা 4 মিনিটই হবে। স্বাভাবিক সব জায়গায় 2 ঘন্টা 4 মিনিট।
Copy. Thank you for
2
that.
ঘন্টা 4 মিনিট পরে ইচ্ছা করে
Great view of that. And
আমরা
going back to the
স্পেসক্রাফটের
window
সাথে
just now, the view has
কানেকশন অফ করে
completely
দিই।
changed. Our trajectory
এই ঘটনাটা অ্যাপোলো 13, 14,
to a new
16,
view, and,
অ্যাপোলো 8
I'm
সবগুলোতেই
looking
করা হয়েছে।
more into Babylon. I've got a
তার জাস্ট
great view into
ইন্টারফিয়ারেন্স
Babylon. I'm actually away
জানাজানি
from the
করা
window
হয়।
right now, so I'm going to go try to give you some
Started
bounding
visible
words on
on
the view that we're seeing. I've got to get back to a window in a minute.
It's a bit of a
understood, Victor. You're defining new views of the moon in more ways than one.
Well,
এবং আর্টেমিস 2 এর ক্ষেত্রে এটা প্ল্যান করে 40 মিনিট করা হয়েছে। 40 মিনিট ওরা কতটুকু সরবে।
Communication blackout behind moon.
Again, when you hear calls down to science or from science, that's Dr. Kelsey Young, the Artemis Science Flight Operations Lead. Here at a console in Mission Control, you also hear
যে একটা টাইম
communications with
লাগতো
the
2
crew
আড়াই মিনিট একটা ল্যাগ টাইম
Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jenny Gibbons. She is the CATCOM for today. She is a backup Artemis II crew member. Those calls from
ক্যালকুলেশন তো
Major
লস অফ
Walker
সিগন্যাল হওয়ার আগে এটা
asking
কতটুকু বাড়ে
about a feature he
নাকি
was seeing,
বাড়ার কথা।
specifically a crater
বাড়বে
on
না
the
তো
moon.
মানে ওটা জাম্প করবে না।
Meanwhile, the team here in the science evaluation room was actively
Slightly
working
বাড়বে,
together
হ্যাঁ।
to determine what feature he was describing.
মানে জাম্প হবে না কোনো রকম।
না না একটু পারবে আর কি।
The teams at the window have continued to move through their targets, including Ohm, Aristarchus Plateau, Reiner Gamma, and we are preparing for the cabin and window teams to swap. That's when we'll hear more from Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen when they take on these support roles, while Christina Cook and Victor Glover are at the windows photographing and annotating.
Heat shield -25 হয়ে আছে। ফুল শীত হয়ে গেছে।
As we briefly mentioned, if you look towards the right side of the moon, essentially,
50.1% হইল। ওরা কি তাহলে মানে মাত্র এক রাত ঘুমাইছে তাই না? 25 ঘন্টা বাকি, আর 25 ঘন্টা মিশনের 25 ঘন্টা বাকি মাত্র।
না এখন 4 দিন, এরা ফিরবে তো 10 তারিখ। 10 দিন না, 10 দিনের মিশন।
কোথায় জানি যে 50.1 নিচে দেখলাম
this
যে
live view coming from a camera outside the
আচ্ছা
Orion spacecraft, and if you
25%।
look on the right side of the moon where you see those dark patches,
পুরো মিশন, পুরো মিশনটা হচ্ছে 2 তারিখ করা হবে।
Wish I had some more time to just sit here and describe what I'm seeing, but the Terminator right now is just fantastic. It is
ক্লোজেস্ট টু মুন যাবে হচ্ছে 11:07।
from a lighting perspective, there are little islands,
হচ্ছে
of
ক্লোজের 5টা।
terrain out there that are completely surrounded by darkness, which indicates some real variation in
লস অফ সিগন্যাল তো এখনো 3 ঘন্টা দেখাচ্ছে।
Up to the north, there is a very nice double crater. It looks like a snowman sitting there. You know, in the 5-10 degrees below the pole in the Terminator, and then on the southern edge, there's almost like a hole. Looks like a hole.
ভাই রুবাদ ভাই আপনার ডেলাইট সেভিং টাইমের সাথে
আমি মাত্র একটা অফ টপিকে তুলতে চাচ্ছিলাম। অফ টপিকটা হচ্ছে যে বাংলাদেশে যে একবার ডেলাইট সেভিংটা করা হইলো, এটা বাংলাদেশে আর করা হবে না। মানে মাথায় একটা আর কি টপিক আসলে মনে করেন যে আমাদের নেক্সট একটা আড্ডার টপিক এটা হবে। যদি আমরা বাংলাদেশে এখন ডেলাইট সেভিং টাইম করি তাহলে আমাদের জীবনে কিরকম করে
লাভ নেই।
সরি আমি খিচুড়ি খাইতে গেছি। ও
নো প্রবলেম, নো প্রবলেম।
বাংলাদেশে
I went to have khichuri. Oh, khichuri, superb.
Not good, yes. Me too.
Are we doing the English dialogue thing? That what's the guy? যে Abu Said coaching center. Yeah, with meat.
There is no food
Meat infused in khichuri.
Out beyond the Terminator, because some of the things, maybe even
there is no food menu called meat. Only beef, chicken, and mutton, and pork.
Integrity science. Oh my gosh, that was an amazing picture you just painted.
Ryan,
I watched over the video and I literally saw fist pumps in the air. Those types of observations are things that humans are uniquely able to contribute, and you just really brought us along with you. So thanks for that.
ছবিটা আমাদের না দেখতে অ্যামেজিং বললে হবে।
কি বলে ক্রিউরা কিন্তু আসলে আরো কাছে দেখতে পারতেছে, কারণ যে ক্যামেরাটা আমরা দেখতেছি এটা কিন্তু মানে সোলার এর মধ্যে, ক্যামেরাটা একটু পিছনে। সোলার এর
স্পিড না কমালে তো আপনার
স্পিড না কমালে তো তাদের মধ্যে ক্র্যাশ ল্যান্ড করবে।
ক্র্যাশ ল্যান্ড না মানে দূরে গিয়ে চলে যাবে।
তারপরে একটা সিরিজ বানানো হবে ক্র্যাশ ল্যান্ডিং অন মুন, ক্র্যাশ ল্যান্ডিং অন দ্য মুন।
ওই যে কি বলে
কোরিয়ান সিরিজ,
একটা মাস্টার ক্লাস ছিল যে স্পেসক্রাফটে ইলেন একটা অ্যাস্ট্রোনট ছিল, তো এক্সপ্লেইন করছিল যে অরবিটে থাকলে উপরে যেতে হলে স্পিড বাড়াইতে হবে, নিচে যেতে হলে স্পিড কমাইতে হবে।
Copy, Christina. That makes sense to us. And good plan. We are coming up here on a cabin and window team swap.
এই
Let me know when you're ready.
নিচের এই কালো বড়টুকু কেন আসছে আসলে কাহিনী কি?
কারণ আমি এটাকে করে তুলে দিচ্ছিলাম।
ভালো হয়েছে, ভালো হয়েছে, ভালো হয়েছে। ওই স্ক্রিনের মধ্যে এক পাশ থেকে নিয়ে আয়, তাহলেই হবে।
As you heard, science.
Go for the vehicle system update.
আমাদের হাতে যে 2 ঘন্টা সময় আছে।
We don't have much for you. We just wanted to let you know that toilet right now is no-go for use as we stick with the crew. We just wanted to let you, for now, all crew members, please use CCUs. Otherwise, Orion is looking very good. And you have 15 minutes in this handover time where we expect Victor and Christina to switch to the windows and you and Jeremy to be in the cabin assisting. Let us know if you have any questions.
No questions at all, and they're in the swap right now. The first thing I'll tell you, I floated up to the docking hatch window and just what I'm going to call the Mari around Oriental just looks so different out the docking hatch right now. It's quite a bit darker. It's the same darkness, if not a little darker than Grimaldi, but it's cool after just being in the 400 mil for the last half hour. Looking up close, I got pictures of everything Ike was just describing on the Terminator. It really is a fascinating Terminator. And then Oriental just looks so dynamic right now. It's very three-dimensional on the docking hatch compared to what I was just looking at through the 400 mil.
We love it. We are getting a sneak preview from one of our SAW cameras of what you're looking at, and we see some of what you're describing. We cannot wait to see your photos. Thanks.
রায়ানের সাথে আমার একটা কথা হচ্ছিল যে লুনার এসওয়াই
I wish you had
লুনার
longer lenses on the solar array so you could see the whole moon, but it is, or the up close moon, not the whole moon, but it is just fascinating here. It's so cool.
All right, MPO and INCO, take notes. We want a zoom lens on those shots.
So lunar SYM series, lunar sphere of influence. So এখানে যেটা হবে সেটা হচ্ছে আমাদের স্পেস ক্রাফটটা
As the crew gets ready to switch positions from the window crew going back to the support crew, and the support crew flying up to the windows. This view inside the room, Capcom Jenny Gibbons speaking with the crew, Canadian Space Agency astronaut. The crew has continued to provide excellent descriptions of what they are seeing on the lunar surface. In this picture, or in this live view actually, from Orion and a camera mounted on its solar array wing, if you look at the dark portion on the right side of the screen, those are visible from Earth. That's considered the near side. Those are ancient lava flows from a time early in the moon's history when it was volcanically active. And if you look towards the left, there's that dark, large crater that appears above, to the left of those lava flows. That's Oriental Basin. It's about 600 miles wide, and it straddles the moon's near and far side. And this mission is the first time that humans have ever been able to see this with their eyes in the daylight. Again, you hear conversation about that Terminator. You have a great view of that as well. That's the difference between light and darkness on the moon. Victor Glover explaining that as a very jagged looking Terminator due to the peaks that they're seeing and the craters that they're seeing as they prepare to cross over the far side. You also heard science officer, the Dr. Kelsey Young, Artemis Science Flight Operations Lead, sharing with Victor Glover that his responses are truly something that only human eyes can discern or provide. So we've previously discussed how having humans observing the moon on this mission is being combined with lunar robotic data to help us maximize what we know about the moon. So part of that data comes from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, or LRO. This orbiter provides the robotic foundation that makes Artemis II lunar science possible. LRO has been orbiting the moon for 17 years, which makes it the longest operated lunar orbiter in history. And it's also the only American spacecraft dedicated specifically to lunar science and exploration. Artemis II lunar observations are designed to complement data like the detailed surface images from LRO. So while LRO provides those detailed high-resolution maps of the moon's surface, the Artemis II crew adds human observations that focus on regional context and relationships between features, giving scientists a larger geologic picture. Now, this combination of robotic and human observations strengthens lunar science. LRO delivers precise and repeatable measurements over long periods of time, while the Artemis II crew contributes real-time visual descriptions and context that robotic instruments alone cannot provide. The best description I've heard while preparing for this mission is to compare the difference in looking at the moon with your own eyes on Earth and trying to take a picture with a camera. The camera truly never does it justice, and it's much easier to describe and perceive what you're seeing with your own eyes than to take a photo. These Artemis II astronauts can rapidly scan wide areas and adjust their focus in real time, as well as describe relationships between features. The crew will also observe the same regions multiple times under changing lighting conditions during the flyby and provide perspectives that would take robotic missions years to accumulate. During the Artemis II mission, LRO is also attempting to observe some of the same lunar features that the astronauts are studying. Collecting this data simultaneously highlights how different instruments and human eyes provide complementary information about the moon. This LRO data plays a direct role in preparing for future Artemis missions. Its measurements of topography, surface temperature, composition, radiation, and lighting conditions are used to assess hazards, identify safe landing sites, and locate potential resources such as water ice near the lunar South Pole. This mission,
So the
Artemis
dark
II,
side of the
represents
moon
the
is
point where
not
years
exactly
of
dark
robotic
all the
preparation
time.
are paired with human exploration for the first time in
মানে
the Artemis
যখন
era.
হচ্ছে light
So
তখন
together,
আমরা দেখতে পাই না।
LRO, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, and Artemis II are demonstrating how NASA moves from mapping the moon robotically to exploring it with humans. We are laying the groundwork for future Artemis missions and sustained
না সাউন্ড অনই তো
lunar
ছিল, or at
operations.
least ভয়েস লিক করতেছে,
A check-in
কারণ আমার
with
হয়তো
Orion
স্ট্রিমের অডিও অন আছে, সো
now.
আমি
4
রাব্বানির ইয়েটা
days,
শুনলাম
21 minutes,
স্ট্রিমের পিছন থেকে।
4 days, 21 hours, and 22 minutes into the flight of Artemis II, our
It's
crew
leaking
aboard the
somehow.
Orion
ডেস্কটপ
spacecraft. We are now
অডিওটা হচ্ছে আমাদের সাউন্ড,
8,153
মাইক অডিওটা
miles
হচ্ছে
away
আপনার
from
সাউন্ড।
the moon,
এটা
250,740
ডিসকর্ডের সোর্সটা আর ইয়ের ইউটিউবের সোর্সটা সেপারেট, তুমি দেখতেছে না। এভাবে হবে না, আপনার ওবিএস থেকে ঠিক করা লাগবে। এটা ওবিএস এ অডিও মিক্সারে দেখেন অ্যাড দেন, অ্যাড এর একটা ইয়ে করেন, সোর্স অ্যাড করেন।
All right, Houston, the professional
সেপারেট
science update
এন্টিটি
giver
হিসেবে
is now
কাউন্টই
in
করতেছে না।
seat 2. That is where Victor is, and Christina is nestling into seat 1 with the long lens, and we're just getting ourselves oriented here. It's a cool view in the cabin. It's actually a cool view to be off the camera now and looking at my crewmates getting up to their observation post and looking in. It's super fun.
এখানে দেখেন, এখানে হচ্ছে ডিসকর্ড টাইপের কিছু আছে নাকি, যে অডিও আউটপুট ক্যাপচার।
Copy all read, we like it.
রুবাইত ভাই কই?
আছি। আমার কথা কি স্পষ্ট নাকি আটকাচ্ছে দেখতো?
না
ঠিক তো আছে, কারণ হচ্ছে যে
এখন ওই তার সঙ্গে কথা নাও করতে পারে। কি জানি আগে তো আমি এয়ারপোর্ট অ্যাড করতাম ডিসকর্ডে, এখানে আলাদা দেখাতো না। আমি একদম সানজানা খান এয়ারপোর্ট প্রো এই দেখাচ্ছে তো 90% আজকে আমার আলাদা দেখাচ্ছে, টোটালি আলাদা হয়ে গেছে। বেস্ট।
না আমি আপাতত
তুই কি চেষ্টা করলি যে ইয়ে ডিসকর্ডে আমাদের এই মুহূর্তে সামনে আনতে?
As we heard confirmation from NASA astronaut and commander of Artemis II,
মনে
Reed
আছে আমরা
Wiseman,
যখন
they
এগুলো
are
ডিসকর্ড
now
করলাম
switching
তখন তোমার
positions
তখন আমরা যে ব্রাউজার ডিসকর্ড লগ ইন
of the
করছিলাম।
support teams and the observation teams. So initially, Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen were at Windows 2 and 3 in the Orion spacecraft, taking photos and making annotations in their PCDs, portable computing devices. They were also giving audible descriptions into their PCDs, wearing headsets with microphones, and providing recordings that the science team will be able to listen to later. We were hearing from NASA astronauts Christina Cook and Victor Glover as they made observations as part of the support team. Now, as these teams
এটা ইয়া ছিল না, এরা তো তাও হইতেছে একটা মানে মাল্টি ক্রুড মিশন। এই যে মাইকেল কলিন্স তো হইতেছে একদম একা ছিল।
এই জন্যই হচ্ছে কি আমি ইয়েতে স্প্ল্যাশ ডাউনের কথা বলছিলাম, কারণ আমি জানি যে ছবিগুলো যে কালকে আমরা পাবো ওগুলো খুব ইন্টারেস্টিং হবে, কিন্তু তোর এই মিশনে এটা কিছুই দেখার নাই, কিচ্ছু দেখার নাই। বরং যদি আমরা বলি যে নাসা হচ্ছে গ্রিন স্ক্রিন ইউজ করতেছে, ওর জন্য নাসার আরো সুবিধা হয়েছে, স্ট্যাটিক ফ্রেম রেখে দিচ্ছি। কোনো রোলার নাই, কোনো স্পিড নাই, অ্যাকশন ক্যামেরা নাই, একটা স্ট্যাটিক ক্যামেরা রেখে দিচ্ছে, সামনে একটা লাইটের উপরে বালি টালি দিয়ে চাঁদ বানাইয়া এই পাশে একটা মডিউল সেট কইরা।
পজিশনটা কোথায় এখন এক্স্যাক্টলি? ইয়াতে বামের উইন্ডোটা আবার এক্সপ্যান্ড করেন দেখি।
পজিশন এখন তোর আপাতত টেক্সাসে আছে। ওরা যায় নাই, ওরা টেক্সাসই আছে।
আবার ফেক করা হচ্ছে না?
অবশ্যই। এই যে দেখ কি রকম একটা স্ট্যাটিক ফ্রেম, আগায়ও না পিছায়ও না। কে বলবে ওরা চাঁদে গেছে?
এই দাগটা রিমেইনিং ট্র্যাজেক্টরি।
আসছে দিক দিয়ে। কি বলে, আচ্ছা তুই তো মানে ব্রাউজারেই আছিস, তুই হচ্ছে যে নাসা আইতে চা না, ওইটার মধ্যে আরো এটা বেটার লাগে আমার কাছে। আর আমি তোকে নাসা আই অন দা সোলার সিস্টেম আর কি, সোলার সিস্টেমে যা, হ্যাঁ এখানে থাকবে, এখানে একদম ভালো মতো ট্র্যাক করতে পারবি। এই যে আর্টেমিস 2 লঞ্চ, এটা বেটার।
আর্থিক জমেন করেন চাইনিজ আইটেমস এটা না, আচ্ছা আর্টেমিস রেড
ওই যে আর দেখা যাচ্ছে পিছনে,
ওইটা হচ্ছে
রিয়াল ডেট।
এটা পৃথিবী।
এখন তুই এটাকে আপ ডাউন করে নিয়ে হচ্ছে যে দেখ চাঁদ থেকে কত দূরে আছে।
ওই যে
ও ও ভয় পেয়ে গেছি।
ঠিক আছে।
উইক আছে।
এখান থেকে আরো যত দূরে মুভ করা হবে মুনটাকে আরো তত বড় দেখাবে।
আচ্ছা চাঁদের তাহলে রশ্মি
আপনি
লিমিট
আরো
নাই
দূরে
তাই না?
সরান তাইলে আরো বড় দেখাবে চাঁদকে।
আচ্ছা আফতাব, ক্যান ইউ রেপ্লিকেট দা ভিউ যেটা আর কি নাসা দেখাচ্ছে? এটা কি? এটা কোত্থেকে আসলো? অরবিটার। না, 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 এটা আগে থেকেই আছে। এটা হচ্ছে নাসার এলআরও। নাসা নাকি ইয়ের কি বলে এলআরও হচ্ছে তোর ইয়ে 2009 থেকে আছে দেখ। ফার্স্ট ফার্স্ট ইউএস মিশন। একা একাই ঘুরতেছে এটা। আর্টেমিসে ব্যাগ যা তুই এবং হচ্ছে যে আমরা যে স্ট্যাটিক ভিউটা দেখতে পারতেছি ওইটা একটু রেপ্লিকেট করার চেষ্টা করে দিই। এলআরওর উপর ক্র্যাশ খেয়ে
Copy read, we're taking note and we'd be curious too.
আরো আছে তো ইয়েতে 2009 মানে হচ্ছে গিয়ে তোর কত 17 বছর। একা একা ঘুরতেছে না তো, ও তো হচ্ছে গিয়ে পুরা চাঁদকে ম্যাপ করছে। চাঁদের সব ম্যাপ ওর কাছে আছে এখন। এলআরও কিভাবে চাঁদকে ব্যাক যা ব্যাকে গেলে, হ্যাঁ যে ব্যাকে গেলে চলে আসার কথা।
এই থাকেন আপনারা, আমি কোন দোয়া করেন আমার জন্য।
ওকে, খোদা হাফেজ।
সালাম আলাইকুম।
স্প্ল্যাশ ডাউনের দিন আসিস।
আমি হ্যাঁ স্প্ল্যাশ ডাউন
স্প্ল্যাশ ডাউনের দিন একটা গেস্ট আনবো নি।
আমিও বিদায় নিচ্ছি, আল্লাহ হাফেজ।
We are live in the Artemis mission control room during the lunar flyby of the Artemis II crew, the first humans to fly by the moon in over 50 years. Orion launched 4 days, 21 hours, and 30 minutes ago atop the SLS rocket, Space Launch System rocket from Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
হাবলের সাথে কম্পেয়ার করতেছিস?
Our 4 crew members inside the spacecraft are transitioning their
আমরা শুধু
positions.
এই উইন্ডোটা
The
দেখাই
cabin
কিছু
and
ভিডিও
window
বানাই ফেলতে
teams
পারি।
have swapped.
সমস্যা হইতেছে যে ধরনের ভিডিও অনেক আছে।
Currently at the window, we have Victor Glover and Christina Cook, NASA astronauts, and serving as support, Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen.
রেক্স তো অনেক ছোট। জুনোর কাছাকাছি আছে আবার।
For our crews at the window, they are using handheld
তোকে বললাম এই ভিউটা পারলে
84
রেপ্লিকেট কর।
millimeter zoom lens. There are also GoPros on each of the solar arrays on Orion, and that's where this view is coming from right now. We have an interior camera of the crew as well, but they have dimmed the cabin lights. They've actually turned off the cabin lights to allow them to better see outside of the spacecraft. This also helps prevent any reflections from lights inside the spacecraft reflecting onto the windows while they are photographing the moon.
এই লোডিংটা তো ইন্টারনেটের লোডিং মনে হচ্ছে না, গ্রাফিক্সের লোডিং মনে হচ্ছে। কন্ট্রোলিংটা কিন্তু স্যান্ডবক্সের মতো না? স্যান্ডবক্সের এটা ডিপিআই নাকি? এক্সাক্টলি। নাম কি ওইটার? ওই যে তোর আরেকটা ম্যাপের মধ্যে আছে না, ম্যাপ আছে না? কোন ওই যে এই পাশে কোন টাইপের মধ্যে ম্যাপ ম্যাপ দেখাচ্ছিল? ওখান থেকে দেখা যেত। বাড়ছে আরো, স্পিড বাড়ছে আরো 1300, মানে স্পিড কন্ট্রোল করতেছে আরকি 1300 1600। তুই এর আগে
In
যখন
terms of
ম্যাক
looking at all
1.6
of
এর
the
কথা বলছিলে
views
তখন
and the
1300
cameras
ছিল।
being used on the Orion spacecraft, and again, we do have GoPros on the tip of each solar array wing. Now, the bandwidth is a little bit limited because
বুঝছিস?
having a crew on board,
এই যে আমরা যেটা
we do have
দেখতেছি,
to downlink a lot
সোলারের
more
এটার মধ্যে
data that
গোপ্রো
includes
লাগাই
their
দিছে।
environmental control and life
কি রে
support
ভাই?
system. We are not the
সিরিয়াসলি?
only data, this view that you see, coming down from the
গোপ্রো এর
spacecraft,
মতো
and
সস্তা
so
ক্যামেরা পাঠাইছে?
we do rely on sharing some of that with the other flight controllers in mission control.
না, না এগুলা
This
না,
helps
এটা
the
তো
team
অন্য কিছু।
monitor all systems aboard the spacecraft and ensure the safety of our astronauts.
গোপ্রোটাকে দেখা যায় নাকি দেখতো? গোপ্রোটা থাকার কথা তো আশেপাশে। এই যে এইটা তো সম্পূর্ণ জিনিস। না, এগুলা সবগুলাই তো। এগুলা সবগুলো স্ক্রু ভিতরের সাথে কানেক্টেড। গোপ্রো ক্যামেরাটা অন্য জায়গায়। ওই যে দেখ ২ টা আছে। এটা ইয়ে হুম, পুরাটা হচ্ছে রেপ্লিকেট আরকি। এই জায়গায় ইয়ে সোলারের হ্যাঁ, সোলারের গায়ের মধ্যে বললেই তো এটা। সোলারের গায়ে হচ্ছে লাগানো আরকি। গোপ্রো লাগানো। নাও দিতে পারে।
We are
হুম,
standing by for a situation report from the crew aboard the spacecraft. They've been imaging the whole moon. There is now a
ভাই
new crew at the
সিচুয়েশন
window.
রিপোর্ট যদি
That would
কখনো
be
করে, "হুস্টন,
Victor
উই হ্যাভ
Glover
আ
and
প্রবলেম।"
Christina Cook. And so, being it's their first time
সিচুয়েশন রিপোর্ট।
since they have moved up to the window
সিচুয়েশন ইজ
positions, they
অ্যাবনরমাল।
have a chance to
উই আর আন্ডার অ্যাটাক।
orient themselves and describe and take pictures of any color or albedo
উই আর সিইং
variations
সামথিং
across
অন
the
দ্য মুন।
surface. Reminder,
ইজ ইট
albedo
ট্রাম্প?
is the brightness or reflectiveness.
Integrity science for a science sit rep when you're ready.
তাই তো হওয়ার কথা। থাকবে তো স্পেসেই, এমন তো না যে চলে আসবে বা কিছু একটা।
Houston Integrity, we
সুন্দর।
have no
জেমস ওয়েবের যেমন
extravehicular
সুন্দর হয় একটা
evidence
কাজ
on
হইছে যে ওকে
flight
দেখা
path
গেছে
number
পুরাপুরি।
2. My only
গত
science
জাস্ট
graphic is
২ দিন
that
পরে
we
মনে
have
পড়ে গেল।
Victor in window 3 doing
সোলারের একে কে আর
Christina
মনে
in
রাখবে।
window 2 with the long lens.
এরপরে মানে এই অবজারভেশনটা শেষ হওয়ার পরে যেটা হবে ওইখানে আরকি সব রেকর্ড
Are
হবে।
the shrouds
ক্লোজেস্ট
still
অ্যাপ্রোচের
on
রেকর্ড,
windows
হিউম্যান
1 and
ডিসট্যান্সের
4?
রেকর্ড।
And if so, would you consider trying to get a view through one of those windows?
হুম।
We cannot
হিউম্যান
take
ডিসট্যান্সের
Victor
রেকর্ড
off
হওয়ার কি দরকার ছিল ভাই?
before
এই যে ওদেরকে যে এত
because
কষ্ট করে উঠাইলো।
as you right, it's
ওদেরকে না বলিয়ে মঙ্গলে পাঠায় দিলে খুব ভালো হইতো
peripheral
আসলে।
vision, and then I can get a grazing glimpse out
প্রিপারেশন
the
যা আছে
docking
ছিলই তো।
hatch window. I could see
যাওয়ার আগ দিয়ে
Oriental
ওদেরকে
south
জাস্ট
down to the South
স্টারশিপে
Pole,
কিডন্যাপ কইরা
and
এলন মাস্ক
precisely what
চাইলে
I see
ওদেরকে
from
এইটা
Oriental
দিয়ে
right
মঙ্গলে
now
পাঠাতে
is
পারত।
just the long
অযথাই আমরা
trenches
যাচ্ছি টাকা।
that come out, and when you come out
আমাদের
the
তো
north side of
প্রিপারেশন ছিল
Oriental,
না,
these
লাইভ করতে অনেক
kind of
সময় হলো।
boulders across
তাহলে আমরা এই
and
ধরনের
on the far
হাসি
side.
ঠাট্টার
But coming out the
মানে
southern half
আলোচনাগুলো
of
বেশি করতাম।
Oriental, I just see
দরকারটা কি ছিল 54 বছর পরে চাঁদ যাওয়ার?
Here they look like gorges. They're almost like rain when it comes down the
একই কাজ
fingers off into
একই কাজ রেপ্লিকেট
into the
করতেছি।
desert. Kind of what it looks like. Also,
যদি যাই তাহলে একবারই যাই। না, একবার অরবিটার পাঠাও, একবার তারপরে আবার মানুষকে কঠিন মিশন দাও, তারপরে যে মানুষ ল্যান্ড করে 4 নাম্বার বার। ফার্স্ট মানুষ পাঠাও। এর আগে
I can just barely see the crater rays from Ohm and
পাঠাইছি, ইট ডাজন্ট ম্যাটার।
for albedo right now.
আমার মনে হয় ওরা কি এরকম করে অ্যান্সার দেয় কিনা যে আগের 13 বার যারা কাজ করছে স্যার সবাই সেন্ড হয়ে গেছে, ওই ইঞ্জিনিয়ার কেউ নাই, ওই রকেট টকেট কিছুই নাই, যেন আমরা সবকিছু আবার নতুন করে করতেছি। এটা কিন্তু তোর নীল ডিগ্রিস টাইসন কিন্তু এটা খুব কঠোর ভাবে বলছে যে আমরা যদি 1911 সালে চিন্তা করি যে আমরা 1960 সালে আমরা চাঁদে গেছি, তাই না? 1911 সালে আমরা মিসাইলও মারতে পারি নাই প্রথম বিশ্বযুদ্ধে। আর হচ্ছে যে আমরা 1960 সালে আমরা গেছি চাঁদে 69 সালে। ওই হিসেবে যদি আমরা চিন্তা করি যে আমরা 69 সালে বসে চিন্তা করতেছি যে আমরা 2026 সালে আমরা আবার চাঁদে যাব একইভাবে। How much developed we have become. That an utter shame.
The annular ring, which I think everybody kind of describes as like a pair of lips or a kiss on the far side of the moon from here, is very circular in nature. The northern part of it is wider, darker. The southern part is much lighter. It is very neat looking, and but it is far more circular than I remember it looking in our training. The darkness of the northern side of the annular ring is the same darkness from here out this docking hatch window as the center mare in Oriental. Not quite as dark as Grimaldi, but it is probably only because dust and lunar regolith has kind of impacted over time.
Reed, that's exactly what we were looking for. Thanks so much. You have heart hands coming out of the SIR.
Say that again, Kelsey.
Just saying that the SIR was really excited about that. That annular ring was something we were really eager to hear about, so thanks.
Yep, you bet. And now Victor and Christina are moving on to Oriental. I got them situated over there a little bit late.
That was NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman, now providing a science sit rep as he is away from the windows most of the time. He is working as the support person along with Jeremy Hansen in the spacecraft, as Victor Glover and Christina Cook are now at windows 2 and 3, able to photograph the moon. Christina and Victor are also providing recorded information to their portable computing devices, that's their PCDs, and the science team will have access to that at a later time. They will then review it and compile all of this data to help further our understanding of the moon. One of the items you heard mentioned was Oriental Basin. This has been a very exciting opportunity for the crew. They have all been very excited about seeing Oriental, as well as the science team has been looking forward to it. It is known as the Grand Canyon of the Moon, as we discussed earlier. From the pictures, the science team is hoping that the crew will take centered images of the entire basin and surrounding craters in a single frame, but also use those 80 to 400 millimeter zoom lenses to create a mosaic entire basin.
এক্স্যাক্টলি এটার কথাই বলতেছিলাম যে ম্যাপটা দেখা তাহলে বুঝতে পারবো ওরিয়েন্টাল বেস।
With their unaided eyes, the science team is hoping the crew will describe southern dark annular ring, which you heard Reed just describing, as well as any color, albedo, texture, or topography across the mare patches and ring mountains. Science team reports that the observations will be used to study the geologic evolution of the youngest lunar basin and to inform formation hypotheses for the annular ring. And again, another fun fact about Oriental is the diameter is the same distance between Johnson Space Center, where we are today, and Kennedy Space Center, where the crew launched on April 1st.
ওটাই তো সান না? এই যে সবচেয়ে বড় যে জিনিসটা যেটা আর কি দেখা গেল বা আমরা সম্পূর্ণ দেখলাম ওটার নাম কি ছিল? এই যে এই পাশের বড়টা সবচেয়ে আর কি। এই পাশেরটা। হ্যাঁ। দ্যাট দ্য লার্জ ওয়ান। I mean the largest basin of the moon. ওরিয়েন্টাল না এটা তো ওরিয়েন্টাল।
This
এই যে
live view
ওরিয়েন্টালের
from the
পাশেরটা।
Orion
বড়টা দ্য
spacecraft
লার্জেস্ট।
on the Artemis II mission,
এক্সাক্টলি।
now 7,373 miles away from the moon,
এটা হচ্ছে গিয়ে আমরা
251,130
পৃথিবী থেকে
miles from
সবসময়
Earth.
পূর্ণিমার মধ্যে অর্ধেক দেখি। আর ওরা দেখছে ফুল একদম। যে ছবিটা আর কি দিছি আমরা। চ্যাপ্টার হয়ে গেল কেন?
Again, the Artemis II
NASA is
crew
trying to
passed
help the
the
flat earthers.
Apollo 13 record of the humans farthest from the Earth today at 12:57
Why
p.m.
NASA?
Central
You do
Time,
not need to
1:57
yeah,
p.m.
আমার দিকে
Eastern
গেছে।
Time.
1 second tribute to the flat earthers. রাম বলেছিল রায়ান নাই।
That distance set by Apollo 13 was 248,655 statute miles. We have clearly passed that, and we expect to pass that by about 4,105 miles.
1 second, 1.348 light
That will
second.
be when the spacecraft reaches its farthest distance from the Earth. It could be around 252,760 miles, but again, these are approximations and our targets, and we will make sure to report back the final numbers once we have them.
দেখে তো অনেক দূরে। পার্কারটা খুঁজে পাইছিলি না? পার্কারটা একবার দেখে আয় যে পার্কারটা এখন কোথায় আছে? এলারো ওই যে হ্যাঁ। এটা তো কাছাকাছি একদম। বরঞ্চ এলারো দিয়া হচ্ছে অরিয়নের ছবি তোলা যাবে।
Have Earth
এবং
set
ঘুরাইতে হবে ওকে বোধহয়।
Earth behind the moon while Orion flies behind the moon. That would be about 5:41 p.m. Central, 6:41 Eastern. The spacecraft would make its closest approach to the moon at 6 o'clock Central, 7 Eastern, and that would be about 4,066 miles. And then at 6:02 p.m. Central, And the spacecraft will reach its farthest distance from the Earth. We anticipate that will be about 252,755 miles, which would be 4,111 miles farther than Apollo 13. We would see Earthrise again at 6:21 p.m. Central Time, and a few minutes later, regain communications with the crew.
4:25, 2 ঘন্টা পরে আর কি। এটাই তো তখন হচ্ছে সিগন্যাল ব্লক করে দেবে। হুম। অ ওরা যখন আর কি ওই ট্র্যাজেক্টরিটা ওরা যখন ক্রস করবে তখন ওরা বুঝতে পারবে যে চাঁদ আসলে কত বড়। ওরা
Currently
এখনো ফিল
aboard
করতেছে না।
Orion, Victor Glover and Christina Cook are the two team members conducting lunar flyby observations, meaning they are using the Nikon cameras to photograph the moon, and their PCD, or the portable computing device, to conduct annotations.
এবং এই পুরা
They are both recording
জানি না
information that will be
রাব্বানিকে
downlinked
দরকার
to the
ছিল,
science
রাব্বানি থাকলে
crew.
ভালো বলতে পারতো।
And tomorrow morning,
এই
the
পুরা
science team
অরবিটটা
will
কিন্তু
have
তোর মানে
a
ফুয়েল প্রোপেলড।
conference with the team
মানে
while the
যদি
information is
চাঁদকে
so
কিন্তু
fresh.
চাঁদের
They'll
অভিকর্ষ
be
কিন্তু ঢোকা
speaking
হয়
with
নাই।
the crew
ঢুকলে
about
কিন্তু
their
এরকম অসম
observations and their
দূরত্ব
data
হইতই না।
collection.
পুরা অরবিটটা কিন্তু ফুয়েল প্রোপেলড, তাই না?
Otherwise, most of
কারণ
tomorrow, flight day 7, is
এরকম এত বড় এই
considered
পাশে এত ছোট,
an off day.
ইম্পসিবল। আমরা চাঁদের গ্র্যাভিটির মধ্যে ঢুকি। ইনফ্লুয়েন্স জোনে আছি কিন্তু গ্র্যাভিটিতে ঢুকি নাই। আমার মনে হয় যে ওই যে চাঁদে ল্যান্ড করাটা কঠিন কেন? ওই চাঁদের গ্র্যাভিটির সাথে যখন আর কি জিনিসটা আসে, তখন যখন আরকি জিনিসটা আমাদের কন্ট্রোলে থাকে না, ওই সময়টাতেই বোধহয় ও আরকি ওকে একা ল্যান্ড করতে হবে। ওর মধ্যে যত অটোমেশন সিস্টেম দেওয়া আছে, ওগুলাকে ইউজ করে ওকে একা ল্যান্ড করতে হবে চাঁদের মধ্যে। দ্যাট ইস ডিফিকাল্ট কারণ চাঁদের গ্র্যাভিটি এতই দুর্বল। এটা আমরা না পারি কন্ট্রোল করতে, না হচ্ছে গিয়ে চাঁদের গ্র্যাভিটি স্ট্রং থাকে। আপনারা মুভিও দেখলেন না? ঘুমাচ্ছেনও না? এই যে প্রোডাক্টিভ হচ্ছি।
We are on flight day 6 of the Artemis II mission, the first time in more than 50 years that humans will observe the moon directly, providing a critical opportunity to practice how lunar science will be conducted during future Artemis missions. If you're just joining us, the
একটা
crew
মজার
is
কথা
well
হইতেছে যে
into
এই
their
পজিশন
lunar
থেকে
flyby observations, and we anticipate
এই
that we
পজিশন
will
থেকে
hear
চাঁদের
from
মেরু
them
বোঝা যায় না,
soon.
দেখছিস? ফার সাইড থেকে।
A few times every hour, they are slated to call down
তাদের
with science
পোলারিটি
sit reps
বুঝাই
or
যায় না।
situation reports. We most recently had one from Commander Reed Wiseman. He and Jeremy Hansen, mission specialist, were first at the windows today to photograph and make annotations of what they were seeing.
এলন মাস্ক
Therefore, we
দেখলাম
heard
আজকে একটা
more from
রিপোস্ট
Victor
করছে
Glover and
যে
Christina Cook
2030
earlier
সালে
in
যখন
the day during
অ্যাপোফিস
those
যখন
first
পৃথিবীর
blocks. But
জিওস্টেশনারির
now that
অরবিটের
Reed Wiseman and
ভিতর
Jeremy
দিয়ে
Hansen are on the
ক্রস
support
করবে,
side, they
তখন
are
আমরা
the ones
বুঝতে পারবো
calling
যে
down
আসলে
what they are
স্যাটেলাইটগুলো আমাদের
seeing
থেকে কত
from
দূরে।
windows 1 and 4.
এটা কেউ রিপোস্ট করলো
Earlier, we
অবভিয়াসলি।
heard that the Earth is so bright in window 4, they have had to temporarily cover it with a t-shirt. The moon preserves a near continuous record of solar system history that has been erased on Earth because the moon doesn't have an atmosphere. So things that we experience on Earth, like weather or plate tectonics don't really apply. So the lunar surface retains evidence of ancient impacts, volcanism, and solar activity that scientists can study today. And studying the moon helps scientists understand how planets formed and evolved, how the moon influenced our own planet Earth's history, and how the sun shaped conditions across the inner solar system. The moon also serves as a unique platform for studying the broader universe. Artemis science is designed around questions best answered by humans, working alongside robotic systems, combining decades of robotic lunar data with real-time judgment, context, and adaptability that only humans can provide. This mission, Artemis II, is serving as a proving ground for lunar science operations, which allows NASA to test how science is planned, executed, and supported during a crewed deep space mission ahead of our future Artemis flights.
আছি আমি দাঁড়া
Integrity, time for a window team position swap. So Victor and Christina, please switch places if you've not done so already, and remember your SD card for the camera.
We're in the swap right now. They're wrapping up their last comments, and they'll switch over and change guards from the long lens.
Copy.
As you heard in that call, it is now time for the team members at the window to swap positions. That means Victor Glover and Christina Cook will be switching roles. One of them has been photographing the moon with a Nikon with an 80 to 400 millimeter zoom lens, while the other was making annotations on their portable computing device. And both are recording audio that the science team will be able to listen to. We are now 2 hours and 10 minutes until we expect to lose signal with the spacecraft as they fly behind the moon. And the next target for the crew is considered a crew choice event. They have the option to focus on any regions or patterns or features that interest them. The science team has asked the crew to capture pictures that illustrate their choice, as well as at different zoom levels, and to describe why those certain features or regions caught their eye. Those recordings are part of what are being saved on their PCDs, portable computing device, that will be sent to the science team for analysis. The crew has been allotted 8 minutes for this crew choice event, and it's also a time for a scheduled sit rep or situation report. So we expect to hear them calling down what they are seeing soon. Something that the crew or that the science team has used to help prepare the crew is a cue card. These ask for a feature ID if they happen to know the type or name, and if it is a target. Of course, in this situation, when they have a crew choice, they do not need to, it may or may not be a target. They want to know the location and the observation style. They've also asked for the geometry of what's being captured, the size, shape, boundary, and preservation, as well as the color and shadow. So the color tone, the albedo, that reflection or brightness, and any shadows or illumination. Next, they're interested in structure and texture. That includes slopes, structures, and textures, of course, and geologic relations, like association to other features, any contact to those features, and of course, their thoughts, impressions, or interpretations. They are interested even in emotions and excitement that the crew may be having. This flyby day has been practiced in many ways, even in sims here in Mission Control Houston. The team also conducted some field work, learning how to look for specific geologic features. They also photographed a large globe, and the science team helped them determine which features they would be targeting and how to look at those. We have a few more minutes that the crew would be photographing their crew choice. Again, this is NASA astronauts Victor Glover and Christina Cook at the windows. They will then move on to another discussion portion. This is for the far side albedo, that reflectiveness, and color that they are seeing. We heard earlier about some browns seen on the moon, which is very interesting, especially here from Earth, where we are just seeing whites, grays, and maybe even black at some points. When they get into that discussion for far side albedo in a few minutes, the theme is looking to know how that color and albedo is, what those variations look like across the far side. On the right side of your screen, the Science Evaluation Room, or SIR, where team members are looking real time at what the crew is seeing. And even earlier, we're...
Houston Integrity, you ready for science zero?
We'll take it.
Okay, the crew has swapped positions. They're in their crew choice element. I've been listening to both of them for a little bit, and they're really enjoying, they both decided to pick the Terminator, and they're spending a lot of time looking at the Terminator, just talking about the resolution that they can see, the depth of the craters, and the various interesting and unique excavations that they can see. So Victor is on the long lens, and Christina is just looking out the window, and I'm sneaking a peek in T-shirt window. It looks like, I don't have the best angle here, but it looks like Aristarchus is on the limb of the moon now. It's amazing how quickly it changes as we speed around the far side of the moon, stuff that's leaving our field of view, and now we have a lot of the dark side of the moon that, you know, it's missing for us right now, but it would be in view if it was lit at all.
Jeremy, Science, thanks for that sit rep. Do have a question. A few times we've heard you and the other crew describe change during the course of your flyby. Would be interested in future descriptions of more verbosity about how it's changing. Thanks for the great sit rep.
Kelsey, sounds good. We are definitely keeping an eye on that. My eyes have just not readjusted. The moon is so bright when you come back to the window. I was just in the interior of the cabin. I've come back to T-shirt window, and it's just overwhelming brightness. And my viewing angle is a bit challenging, so I won't be able to give you great observations from this window. But I will talk about something that I was talking a lot about in my recordings earlier, which was we've been talking about some shades, and so we have obviously the dark and the light gray, and then we've talked about naming some colors, a brownish hue and a greenish hue. And I'll tell you, like right now, Aristarchus, the plateau is hard for me to see from this window, but that had greenish hues to me and was very unique. I didn't see anything like that anywhere else on this side of the moon. And then I see a lot of these, what I would call brownish hue areas. There's a number of them. And they, for example, in the northwest corner of the highlands, to me it looks like the brownish hue is caused by ray or ejected material landing on the highlands, and then we obviously see the ray areas as a lighter albedo, but in between the rays where the deposit would be thinnest, that is what it looks like is causing the brown to me. So I saw that in the northwest side of Aristarchus, or sorry, that dark area of the highlands, northwest side of the highlands. I saw it in the highlands to the east of Glushko, and then I see those same brownish hues west of Oriental, and I drew a contact there on OneNote, but that's a huge region, kind of like a piece of pie with the point of the pie pointing at Oriental and then going up towards the northern side of Hertzsprung. And that is an area that just looks like a different, that brownish albedo.
That was fantastic, Jeremy. We had heard rumors of the green and brown hues, and so you really read my mind on asking about those. Understand they likely didn't have any contact with each other the way that you described them, but please correct me if I misunderstood that. And then last thing, I'll make the same offer we made to Victor earlier. If it would be helpful for us to verbalize any targets so you can stay at the windows and keep your eyes adjusted to the moon, please let us know.
If you got something you want us to look at, Kelsey, you can send it on up.
Definitely not looking to interrupt your flow, Reed and Jeremy, only offering assistance if you guys want to keep your eyes off of the PCDs.
Oh, I see what you're saying, okay. Not really science related, and we definitely learned this at Apollo, but the thing that is just most fascinating, I think, to me and Victor right now is even as rugged as the far side looks, when you look at Oriental and Ohm, it's rugged, but man, when you look at the Terminator, it is just like impossibly rugged, and it reminds you that the whole far side is that way, and just the Terminator is really bringing out the shadows and the hills and the valleys, and it is just, it's unbelievable. It's like no surface of the Terminator is not marked by a meteor impact, and it's just, it is very impressive to look at that, and you realize that that is true across the whole far side. You just can't see it due to sun illumination right now.
Reed, Houston copies, and we were commenting on the same thing. Even from our view, the Terminator looks absolutely alien because there's just so much texture in there that we're just not used to seeing. So thanks for sharing that with us.
There's also, I don't know the name of it, coming out the south-southwest of Oriental, right on the southern terminator Terminator is just a massive crater. I don't know the name of it. Maybe you can look on the solar array wing video and tell me it's right. It's the southernmost crater you see on the Terminator right now.
We're looking for you. We're loving that picture. Thanks for showing us. And Reed, as an answer to your last question, we believe that that is Chebyshev crater. And the sir agrees with that.
Okay, that picture I was just showing you is an 8X iPhone out the docking hatch for the high grazing angle. It's just amazing.
We love it. Thank you.
This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas. Mission elapsed time, 4 days, 22 hours, 12 minutes into the flight of Orion. This is Lunar Flyby Day for the crew aboard the spacecraft. Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen are now the farthest people to have ever traveled from Earth. This a live view from inside the spacecraft. They have turned off the lights so they're able to see outside and photograph the moon better with no reflections from inside. And for a very brief moment there.
Integrity Science, thanks for those iPhone views. It's helpful to see what you're seeing.
We very briefly saw NASA astronaut Reed Wiseman showing a picture he took on his phone of the moon. We do expect to get all of the photos that the crew is taking today, and we cannot wait to share some of those with you. But pretty cool in the meantime, just to see one quick shot from what the crew is seeing. And this view from outside the spacecraft on Orion's solar array wing. Orion is now 6,643 miles away from the moon and continuing to grow closer. Again, their closest approach will be about 4,066 miles. The best comparison is if you held a basketball at arm's length. That's about what it would look like to the Artemis II crew at their closest approach. This view showing at the very top, a camera coming from Orion, continuing their flyby of the moon. We have 3 more flyby observation blocks after the completion of this one. Down on the bottom left of your screen, that's the SIR, the Science Evaluation Room, where team members are continuing to work through all of the targets that the crew is photographing today, and they've helped identify some of the craters and some of the other items that the crew has seen on the moon's surface. Down on the right is Artemis Mission Control here in Houston. Those 2 rooms down at the bottom are just down the hall from each other.
ওকে, লাইভ চলতে থাকবে না? কখন শুট করবি? শাটডাউন টাইমার দিতে পারবি?
And we are just a few minutes
সেটা করে
away
রেখে
from the
কারণ
next
2
cabin
ঘন্টা
and window
সিগন্যাল
team
লস হবে তো
swap.
3
That
ঘন্টার
means
চেয়ে গেলে
Victor and
করতে নিলাম।
Christina, who have been at the windows, will fly to the cabin, the background essentially, and be their support crew for Reed and Jeremy. Reed and Jeremy will move back up to the windows. The crew is continuing their discussion portion of the flyby in the lunar targeting package, where it says far side albedo / color. They are looking, the science team is looking to get a good understanding of what the crew can see on the far side at this point, and its brightness as well as any colors. We did hear earlier Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen reporting that they could even see browns and even greens on the moon. I'm really looking forward to seeing those photos. And in just a couple of minutes, the teams will swap from the cabin to the window. Another rundown of just how this flyby is choreographed inside the spacecraft today. So these activities have been timelined, and there are these 5 blocks of time during which the crew is going to be observing the moon from Orion's windows. Now we are just coming up on the end of the second block, and we'll start the third soon. So at any time during those blocks, 2 members are at the windows working in a pair. One is taking photos from window 2 and has a blue shroud over the window to help prevent any reflections from inside the spacecraft. They are also using an 80 to 400 millimeter zoom lens. And the other astronaut on the window team will be in window 3 using their portable computing device to make annotations. Now, again, both of those crew members are making audio recordings of what they are seeing, and we are not hearing that right now. Those are going to be downlinked later to the science team, who will evaluate them and use that data to inform our understanding of the moon. Those 2 crew members at the windows swap roles.
Integrity Houston, it is time for another swap between the cabin and the window teams. So we have 15 minutes of handover time, and then we will expect Jeremy and Reed at the windows and Christina and Victor at the cabin. I have no new vehicle updates for you, but I do have a photo location for some photos on Ike's PCD, and I want to let you know that Jeremy's family have arrived in the viewing gallery.
Okay, Jenny, we copied most of that. The only thing we're missing is what you meant about the photo location on Victor's PCD. And hello to my family. I think that must be Catherine and Devin that are there. And I'm glad they made it into the viewing room. And we copy it's time for crew swap. The A team's coming out of the windows and the B team's going in.
Okay, copy. All I meant to pass for Victor's PCD is that there are some late load photos that were requested that are now in his favorite photos folder. And you're exactly right. We have Catherine and Devin here. They give you a big wave, and they're super excited and happy to see part of what you're seeing.
Okay, copy, Jenny. We're not sure what we're looking for in the PCD, but we're going to poke around, and we may be calling you back about that one.
All right, that's no problem, and it's unrelated to flyby.
This is Artemis Mission Control here at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. And as you just heard, Capcom, or Capsule Communicator Jenny Gibbons, Canadian Space Agency astronaut, and Artemis II crew backup, relaying to the teams in Orion that it is time for a swap from the cabin to the window teams. We're now at the tail end of the second lunar flyby observation block. Again, we have 5 of these today. Most recently, Victor Glover and Christina Cook were at the windows photographing and making annotations, while Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen were in the cabin providing support, whether that is SD card help, but also science sit reps, calling down any situation reports for what they are seeing on the moon or anything about the vehicle status. With that call to make a swap, Reed and Jeremy will be back at the windows, making observations for what they see at the moon and taking photos. Again, you're watching live coverage of NASA's Artemis II.
But something that's really awesome up here is we now have the moon and the Earth in window 3 simultaneously, and the moon is a gibbous, and the Earth is a crescent. And I'm guessing in about 45 minutes we'll have 2 identical crescents as we change our position in the universe.
That is pretty darn cool. Thank you.
That's the Artemis II crew, the first astronauts to fly by the moon in more than 50 years, reporting that when they look out of window 3, one window, they're able to see both the Earth and the moon at the same time now. Now, obviously, our view is from a camera on the solar array wing pointed at the moon, and we hope to see that view of both the Earth and the moon soon. Some upcoming times for what you can expect. In about an hour and 40 minutes, we will have Earth set. And during that time, we will have a view of Earth going behind the moon. Shortly after, just a few minutes later, we will lose signal with the Orion spacecraft. This is tracked as it is going behind the moon and out of reach of the Deep Space Network. At 6:00 p.m., the spacecraft will make its closest approach to the moon at a distance of about 4,066 miles. At 6:02 Central, the spacecraft will reach its farthest distance from Earth at about 252,755 miles. Of course, these are approximate, and we will make sure to provide you with the final distances once those are confirmed. At 6:21 p.m., we will have Earthrise from the Orion spacecraft, but we will not have communications with the spacecraft until 6:25 p.m. Central, when we expect to acquire signal with them after they've emerged from behind the moon. Again, you're watching live coverage of NASA's lunar flyby for the Artemis II mission, first crew to fly beyond the moon in over 50 years. The astronauts inside the spacecraft are switching positions, 2 at the windows and 2 serving in support roles, before they start their third timelined flyby observation for today. We've heard great calls from the crew so far describing what they're seeing, all well trained by the science team here on the ground. Another major milestone for the crew today will be to experience a solar eclipse from their capsule. No one on Earth will experience this solar eclipse. To the astronauts, this will look a lot like a total solar eclipse on Earth, except the moon will be huge compared to the sun. Whereas if you're standing on Earth and looking at a solar eclipse, the moon and the sun appear to be about the same size in the sky. As the moon begins to cover and then uncover the sun, the astronauts will see a partial solar eclipse, so that's before and after totality, and during that time frame they will have to wear eclipse glasses so they can safely view this phase. They also intend to capture images of the sun's corona during the eclipse. This is a rare glimpse at the innermost corona that will only be captured by the astronauts' cameras. During the eclipse, we also look forward to the crew members describing what they will see, which includes unique light features like the shape and size of the corona and potentially even lunar dust. At the same time, Venus, Saturn, Mars, and Mercury will be near the sun, so they may be able to identify what part of the sky they're looking at. This can help train future Artemis astronauts on what part of the sky they're seeing, which is useful knowledge in challenging situations when they may need to rely on that information instead of instruments for navigation and orientation. That eclipse window will last about an hour, and it'll happen near the end of the day today, closer to 7:35 p.m. Central, 8:35 Eastern. As you can see in this live view from Orion, the spacecraft is maneuvering around the moon, and the views of the moon have changed since we started our broadcast. The near side is now very far to the right side of your screen. This is the side that we can see from Earth. That darkened portion are ancient lava flows. The crater down towards the bottom of the moon is Oriental, and this is a crater that was previously never seen before by human eyes until this mission. Everything to the left of Oriental is considered the far side. And this is what we typically do not see from Earth. Just a reminder about this view. This is coming from a GoPro camera mounted on the tip of one of Orion's 4 solar arrays. Each solar array has a camera mounted on it, and the bandwidth is limited due to we have a crew on board, and this is our first flight of crew aboard the Orion spacecraft. So having a crew means we have to have an environmental control and life support system. There's a lot of data around, a lot of data to bring down for the crew members to keep us up to date on everything happening aboard the spacecraft. So we have to share our bandwidth when it comes to imagery and data. Inside the Orion spacecraft, the astronauts have completed their cabin and window team swap, meaning we have moved into the next block of lunar flyby observations. Jeremy Hansen and Reed Wiseman are now back at the windows, taking photos and making annotations. About halfway through this block, they will switch positions at the windows and will be prompted by the ground to do so.
Houston, integrity for SITREP. First of all, I'll just talk about the experience that I had during Victor and my observation time. It was an incredible experience. We definitely noted how much more you can see with the zoom lens. Even though we have a great visible eye image, there's just a lot of texture that just pops right out at you when you can zoom in. So almost just using it like a telescope, the camera lens. We really enjoyed our discussion time. That was a great innovation on the lunar targeting plan. We were both able to describe a lot more kind of with flow, I would say, when we were talking to each other. And it was also, we sort of were able to bounce ideas off of each other and come to new conclusions. We had, I think, a very successful talking through of some contacts between different color areas, both in the mare and in the highlands, and we identified some really unique texture areas as well. At one point, towards the end of the images of my time in window 3, I just had an overwhelming sense of being moved by looking at the moon. It lasted just a second or two, and I actually couldn't even make it happen again. But something just drew me in suddenly to the lunar landscape, and it became real. And the truth is, the moon really is its own body in the universe. It's not just a poster in the sky that goes by. It is a real place. And when we have that perspective and we compare it to our home of the Earth, it just reminds us how much we have in common. Everything we need, the Earth provides, and that in and of itself is somewhat of a miracle, and one that you can't truly know until you've had the perspective of the other. I'll switch into some logistics stuff. The Peltors, both their batteries stopped providing the active listening, but we have verified they are still recording, and so we are able to have discussion time and hear outside our recordings by just moving the ear cup off of the ear. Other than that, everything's working well technically, and we've been able to find all our targets, and we're having a really great time.
Thanks, Christina. We copy those logistics for the Peltors, and also thanks for bringing us into the cabin with you with that description.
Right on time. NASA astronaut Christina Cook, a mission specialist for Artemis II, calling down a science sit rep, a situation report. Good news, reporting that she and her teammates have been able to capture all targets that were listed. Christina also gave a vibrant description of just how it feels to be there and to see the moon up close and not just something passing in our night sky. Currently, the team members at the window are Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen. Meanwhile,
Integrity cabin team for window shroud.
We're listening. Go ahead, Jenny.
Hey, Victor, we have a temperature constraint on the windows, and the shroud might be getting us close, so we just want to check on the state of window 4's shroud, whether you believe it's still necessary because maybe things have changed with our viewing, and if so, we would like to request to have the shroud removed.
Houston, we believe it is necessary. We pulled it off just as a corner. It is very bright. It definitely would affect our night vision and maybe comfort. But is there a time? Can you tell us when we would have to take it off by?
Unfortunately, since it's been on for a while, we are going to have to request that the shroud is removed, and we can recommend something that could block the light but just create a bit of distance between the window and whatever is covering it. Something like a t-shirt would do the trick and help.
Okay, we're removing the shroud, and we'll make it work. Thanks.
Thank you, Victor. We know it's pretty bright in there now with that window uncovered. We will also offer that airflow on the window would be helpful. So if you want, you can also retrieve the condensation hose, which should be friction fit onto one of the diffusers. And that on the window would also help.
We can easily point a diffuser at the window, so we're going to start with that. And it's pointing at the window now.
Okay, we'll take that, Victor. Thank you. Please keep us updated.
That call from Capcom, Jenny Gibbons, CSA astronaut and Artemis II crew backup to the crew aboard Orion, letting them know that they will need to remove the window shroud they had placed on window 4. They initially placed that shroud there to block out some of the light from the Earth. It was extremely bright coming in the cabin and interfering with some of their viewing opportunities out at the moon. This was a request from ground teams to ensure that they are protecting other systems, and the crew has been offered the opportunity to use something else to cover the window. Meanwhile, Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen continue with their lunar flyby observations. They have just looked at Glushko Crater. That's about when we heard that call down from Christina Cook with that description of everything she had been seeing during her observation period and what she was seeing at that time. The science team asked this crew to take centered images of the entire crater and their ray system in one frame. They're also interested in knowing the brightness, texture, and extent of Glushko's rays and how they differ in the mare, or that sea area, versus the highlands. Glushko is considered a young lunar crater, and these observations can help understand material properties of those craters.
Integrity. First, I wanted to start off with connecting with what Christina said, that it was very moving to look out the window. I had the unfortunate sequence to start looking out the window and then moved to the long lens, and it was hard to speak looking through the zoom because I went straight where Christina went, and I was walking around down there on the surface, climbing and off-roading on that amazing terrain. I also want to underscore something that she said. As we continue to explore, when we actually do go down there to the surface, I know for safety reasons that we would never send someone alone, but I just want to really emphasize how important the discussion time was. When we started to talk, we not only got better science discussion, we got better human connection, and so doing this as a pair, we just learn and grow together, and that's just super important, so thank you for adding that to this plan. Reed just passed me a note that the Oriental Basin annular ring has a similar albedo to the center, but a different color. It has more brownish tones in it, and he said it's very distinct now that he's been staring at it.
Victor, thank you. You got a cheer from science there, and we all just went on that moonwalk with you, so highlighting how important it is to talk about these things. I also want to let you know that we have Deanna Glover with us in the viewing gallery. She's all smiles.
Well, you just got a bunch of cheers up here. Hey, babe. I love you from the moon.
We love that we got a hey babe too, and we also have one of your lovely daughters here watching you guys work.
Thank you guys for doing that and for supporting them through this. And to all of you, Genesis, Maya, Joya, and Corinne, I love you. And Deanna, I love you. I'm glad you get to be there.
We've had some really sweet words from the crew members aboard Orion today, as their families have been able to filter in and out of the viewing room here at Artemis Mission Control at Johnson Space Center in Houston. Victor Glover also giving a great science sit rep and just a description of how it must feel if you were down on the lunar surface while he was looking through that 80 to 400 millimeter zoom lens. He also expressed how important it was to be able to talk through that real time with Christina Cook and stressed the importance of that on future missions, that it not only made their discussions better, but also more human. Glover and Cook are in the support roles right now, not taking photos or making annotations at the windows, but they are also encouraged to have their midday meal at this time. For lunch today, those two crew members have options of beef ravioli, salmon, butternut squash, sweet and savory kale, pickled beets, cherry blueberry cobbler, tuna noodle casserole, tomatoes and artichokes, broccoli, and chocolate peanut butter bar. Once Glover and Cook return to the window portion of their flyby today, Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen will get into their midday meal. Again, this is the third of 5 scheduled blocks for our lunar viewing today, and if you were watching at the start of the broadcast, you can definitely tell the difference in the distance from the moon. We are now 5,518 miles away from the lunar surface, and again, expecting the crew to get about 4,066 miles away. They are currently 252,050 miles away from Earth, and every mile is a new record, having surpassed the Apollo 13 milestone for furthest distance earlier today. If you look down to the bottom right of the moon in that darker looking area, that is Oriental Basin. We have continued to lose views of the near side. It is just barely visible over towards the bottom right side of your screen. And then you'll also hear later about that terminator. That's the line between light and darkness while on the moon. It is really exposing some of those craters at this time. A couple of the other features in view right now are Hertzsprung Basin and Vavilov Crater. Hertzsprung Basin is nearer to the center of the moon, closer to that terminator line right now, and Vavilov Crater is just on the outskirts of it, closer again to the terminator. Towards the bottom of the moon and to the left of the terminator line, or currently shadowed in darkness, is Apollo Basin.
Science from integrity. Let me find out how far we are from the moon right now. But our view is about a third of the moon is in eclipse. That beautiful terminator is out there calling to me. We're 4,691 miles from the moon. And what looked like in the terminator about a third of the way up from the southernmost part of the terminator looked like a dinosaur print if one was running to the northwest. Now is clearly a crater with a bunch of craters around it. And that terminator, I can only see about half of it. I'm looking through the docking hatch window right now because we have the Z9 in window 1. But that terminator has moved. I guess I've been using Vavilov the whole time, so it's gone 2 more Vavilov craters to the west. And so a few more features are starting to peek out into the sunlight there with that low sun angle, and so you still have ridges and valleys showing up very clearly, a very jagged terminator, and a few islands of light out there with some high elevation shining in the sunlight in that darkness. And on the eastern side of the moon, let's see, Grimaldi appears to be one of the farthest east features, and that is maybe 5 degrees from being right on the limb and going off over the horizon. It is interesting, just looking at Oriental, that my first impression of it is all of the dark areas appear lighter, which I think makes sense because it is now facing, well, it's still relatively the same to the sun, but my angle to it is different. So I'm looking at it from a little more, even further to the side as we pass it. But all the darker features appear to be just a little bit lighter from this vantage point. The darker ring structure in the outer and inner ring and the interior, as well as the annular ring portion, everything seems to be just a smidge lighter at this point.
Thanks for that description, Ike. Any additional words you can provide on Oriental would be wonderful, as that is such a high priority target for us. And while I have you, as we get closer to target 15, which is the Terminator target, if you can find Zeeman Crater again that you were looking at earlier, everything to your left of Zeeman would be getting into the South Pole Aiken area to help you orient yourself.
Zeeman is a great waypoint out there. I definitely see it. Yeah, Zeeman is very easy to find, and that is awesome. Thank you for pointing that out. Feel free to do that as often as you think of things. Let's see, looking back at Oriental. Okay, another thing, after looking through the zoom camera, man, you guys are smart. You probably did this on purpose, but after looking with my plain eyes and then going to the 400 millimeter zoom, now looking at it, I see the cliff face as if you were standing in the center. That inner and outer ring have definitely some real terrain to them, and now I can see that as terrain. Now that I look at it even with my naked eye, I can tell that there's a lot of elevation and that, like I said, a cliff face on that eastern edge where all the darker deposits are. And it's just the scale now. Looking at it from far away before, it seemed like flat with color painted on it, but now that I look at it, I can definitely see that there is, different depositional characteristics, and so the darker is some other material, but there's also some shadowing going on because of the cliff face that is a part of that crater wall.
Great description, Victor. Thanks, and really interesting to hear now the distinction between shadow and color. Before I let you go back to other observations, you mentioned that Reed saw a browner hue to the annular ring than the rest of Oriental. Are you seeing that from your vantage point?
The way that I'm looking at Oriental, again, I'm still in the docking hatch window. There's like a thermocouple right here in the center of the window, and it is the orange Kapton tape color, and so it is unfortunately, it's like trying to look at stars, next to a metropolis. I think it's drowning out any color that I could pick up from the moon. I am not able to see that color, but I have not looked at it through one of the forward face, or from one of the windows 1 through 4. I think when I get away from this Kapton tape strip that I would be able to see the variation that Reed's talking about.
That is great feedback operationally. Thanks, Victor. I'll leave you to it.
Integrity with a question from the window team.
Integrity, this is Science, here with you.
Yes, they have a question to help inform a theory that they're sort of tossing back and forth. What is older, the Mare seas of the near side or Oriental?
Stand by, Integrity. We're going to get you a little geologic history here. Integrity Science back with you for some lunar volcanism when you're ready.
Go ahead.
You're making our day down here getting to talk about lunar volcanoes. Oriental, as far as Mare go, is younger than almost all of the Mare on the near side. The exception are features like Aristarchus, which really pop out to you guys and really pop out to us here on Earth. That is younger, but other than that, Oriental is pretty young as far as Mare go.
And Kelsey, thanks for that. We love lunar volcanism too. How about when the actual crater was formed?
Yeah, we're going to get you an age for Oriental, and while we're getting that, Christina, can you, maybe you've heard the window team talk about the sort of contacts around Oriental, but because that material is so much younger, if anything pops out to you about physical relationship between that and surrounding terrain, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, definitely. They are discussing a contact relationship that could explain some of the color that they're seeing in certain areas. And so it was really about the ejecta of the creation of the basin and understanding the superposition of its ejecta and Mare on the near side or other features. So thank you. We'll take the insight when you have it.
Thank you, Integrity. And I know Jenny wants to get to you with some topics, so I'll leave you with Oriental is 3.8 billion years old.
Copy that. So that's on the older side. The actual basin is very old.
Correct, as is the case with a lot of mare. Typically the big basin formed and then the, volcanic eruption was able to punch through the crust where it was weakened by that basin formation.
Perfect. Tracking. Thank you.
NASA astronaut Christina Cook calling down some questions to the science team on console. The voice you're hearing with those answers is Dr. Kelsey Young. She is joined by Trevor Graff on console today. Christina asking about the age of Oriental and specifically the mare regions. Those are those dark regions that you see. They are paved or filled by volcanic deposits.
Better answer.
Integrity, it's about time for a position swap at the window. So we will ask Reed and Jeremy to swap positions. And I'll remind you again about your SD cards. And Victor or Christina, I have one window task for the cabin team when you're ready.
They are swapping and I'm ready.
All right, Tina, we found a way that we can reinstall the shroud on the window. We understand it's pretty darn bright compared to everything that you're looking at. So in order to reinstall it, we will ask that you retrieve the condensation hose and you install it on a friction fit on the cabin air outlet port. That's right by one of your diffusers. You're going to point that little condensation hose such that the air is flowing over the window pane. Let me know when you're ready for the stowage location.
Ready.
Christina, the hose is in locker A1.
The crew has gotten a go to reinstall that window shroud they were using to block some of the earth shine.
Copy.
This view coming from inside the Orion spacecraft as the crew members are swapping windows, specifically Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen. They've been our crew members at the windows taking photos, making annotations, and making recordings that'll be downlinked later to the science team for review. The science team will have a conference tomorrow morning with the crew to get any fresh perspectives or things that they learned during the flyby. Again, we are now in the third of 5 observation blocks for the crew scheduled for today. During this flyby, Orion is passing around between 4,000 and 6,000 miles from the moon and providing the crew with a full view of the lunar surface. It's a higher vantage point and much farther than Apollo's lunar orbits on average. So from this view, astronauts can observe both the North and South Pole and large-scale geologic features in one single view. We are now just under an hour until Orion passes behind the moon, and we lose communication with the crew. They will be out of reach with any of our deep space network antennas. That loss of signal will last about 40 minutes, and we expect to regain communications with them once they fly behind the other side of the moon. While they are behind the moon, they will also reach their max Earth altitude as well as their closest approach to the lunar surface. The view you have right now is a live stream from a camera on Orion's solar arrays. You are looking at a live view of the moon, and 4 people are inside that spacecraft taking pictures of it, telling us everything that they are seeing. The first humans to do so in over 50 years. They'll be sending those pictures down for all of us to enjoy, and of course, especially the science team, who are very excited for what they are learning today. It appears the Artemis II spacecraft, Orion, is now under 5,000 miles away from the moon. Again, we expect their closest distance to the moon be about 4,066 miles. That is an estimate at this point, and we will make sure to share that closest approach distance once we receive it.
Houston integrity question, did you just want us to cool the window with the condensation hose, or did you want us to put the shroud back on and cool the window at the same time?
Victor, we definitely want you to cool down the window with the condensation hose. It's crew preference whether you put the shroud back on. The hose will allow you to do that if it helps with your lunar flyby.
Okay, copy. We're going to do both at the same time. Thank you.
Houston copies.
Houston, thank you for that suggestion. The cabin is darkened again, and that makes a big difference for the imagery. And for science, we are now seeing a half moon.
Thank you, Victor. We're happy to hear it, and we see half moon, full moon joy still.
Crew reporting from Orion that they are seeing half the moon, which is about what it looks like here from this view from the spacecraft. However, what has become a little bit of a catchphrase for this mission, everyone is reporting full moon joy. We are keeping up with which targets the crew is tracking through their lunar targeting package. They are just wrapping up their second.
Science integrity, another observation the window team commented on and Christina and I discussed a bit is in Hertzsprung. The solid and intact crater is very smooth. If it were a dirt road, it's very hard packed, and then you go outside of it, and that outer crater, that's the one that is older. It is a little rougher and more jagged, and starts to get into more loose-looking terrain, and the smooth interior also causes the craters that are inside of the larger crater, the smaller craters, to have really sharp edges, sharp, distinct edges. And just a general comment on that area, Hertzsprung, that whole area, the average albedo there is darker. That is, I would say, 3. And the average albedo around Oriental and between Oriental and Ohm, excluding the wedge, the darker wedge, is more on the 6-7. And that they also seem to be different texturally. Christina described it earlier around Hertzsprung, and then from Hertzsprung toward toward Oriental, there appears to be a frozen, a rippling pond, but frozen. Or like choppy waves when it's windy out, choppy water, and then it freezes instantly. That's the texture. If you walk down there barefoot, it looks like it would be hard on your feet, like lava. After it's cooled, it would be pokey. Except for right there in the center of Hertzsprung, it looks paved, like a paved road, nice and smooth.
Victor, that's a wonderful description. Going from a paved road to lava reminds us of the Icelandic highlands. Thanks for that.
And science, another in the interior of the very intact, the interior of the intact crater at Hertzsprung is albedo variation. I think I heard one of the window crew maybe say color variation, but definitely albedo variation. There's lighter patches and slightly darker patches. It's not swirling, it's just patchy. It just has spots that are lighter, and I would say a predominantly darker average area.
Great descriptions, Victor. Thanks. Not swirly, just patchy is really helpful for us.
Really great descriptions coming from
science. The window team is hitting all the targets. They are on the plan and starting the discussion of the Terminator. And boy, I'm loving the Terminator. I think I know it's not purely a moon feature, but what it does to the features of the moon, to the terrain, I've probably spent the most time describing into my recordings and thinking about and looking at the Terminator. There's just so much magic in the Terminator. The islands of light, the valleys, what look like black holes, you'd fall straight to the center of the moon. If you stepped in some of those, it's just so visually captivating that the Terminator is the most striking thing that I've seen so far.
We've been loving your evocative descriptions, Victor. You really are bringing us along with you, and we're following along with visualizations that pale in comparison to your descriptions. Thanks. Integrity Science, one more question on a status of what the window team chose to observe for crew choice.
Window 2 talked about Vavilov, looked for suspended dust, and the Terminator. And window 3 about the experience and about the three-dimensionality of the moon this close.
Wonderful.
And another observation about Oriental, I would say, is the features going off to the southwest, the two large, almost look like scratches in the surface. I don't know if they're rays or canyons or collapsed lava tubes, but two distinct features that are almost parallel going off southwest from Oriental Basin. They are the first things that made me notice parallax of our trajectory looking out at Oriental. That and in the inner walls of the east side of the crater rings, you really get a sense that we're flying over something with elevation and terrain, and they look different from this orientation.
Love to hear it, Victor, and you had it that those chains are actually crater rays, secondary craters formed from the formation of Oriental.
Yeah, speaking of crater rays, the crater rays that are going off to the northwest, that run off toward Hertzsprung and I believe toward Vavilov. I'm not looking at it right now, but those crater rays are very interesting. They're all very small. I know you've imaged this, but they're all small and they look like, you know, a big impact launched rocks and things that made smaller impacts down the way. But something very interesting, and again, you can see this in imagery, but some of them are parallel, and then some of them converge toward the center of Oriental. And then I think I even saw some that maybe diverge, which not diverge, but that are convergent, which indicate multiple large impacts that created a lot of secondary impact crater rays.
Fantastic, Victor. And I'll note that we can infer that you're looking down at your freshly named Integrity crater, which is near the end of one of those beautiful crater rays from Oriental. Thanks for the description.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Integrity is easily identifiable with the naked eye from this point.
We've been hearing some great situation reports from Victor Glover, the pilot of the Artemis II mission, calling down to the science team, letting them know what he is seeing. And one of those things is Hertzsprung Basin. If you look just to the right of the Terminator, that is the difference between light and darkness on the moon. You can see what he's describing when he says Hertzsprung Basin and how it looks a little bit paved in the middle there. It's almost in the very center of the moon in this view, coming from the Orion spacecraft and a camera mounted on its solar array. We are now 4 days, 23 hours, and 23 minutes into the flight of Artemis II, and we are standing by for their lunar loss of signal in about 43 minutes. Again, the spacecraft will fly behind the moon, and during that time, we won't have communication with them. They will be out of reach of our deep space network. However, we will regain communication with them approximately 40 minutes later when they come around the other side of the moon. The crew aboard the spacecraft are currently discussing the Terminator, that difference between day and night. The science team is interested in learning about the topography and the color of the lunar surface, and it's already been very interesting to hear that they have seen colors like greens and browns while looking at the moon. Some of the questions that they are hoping the crew will discuss are how do the quantities and sizes of craters and mountains vary along the terminator, and they are looking for the crew to describe the topography of features along or near the terminator. They're also looking for more information on any color or tone variations, and they're hoping that the crew will take images to illustrate their findings. Glover reported earlier that the crew has missed none of their targets when they are photographing at the window. We aren't hearing the conversations that the crew is having right now, but these are being recorded to their personal computer devices, PCDs, and those will be sent down to the science team. The science team will have a conference with the crew tomorrow morning to discuss their findings and experience when looking at the moon today. We have a few minutes left while the crew is discussing the Terminator. And if you're just joining us, you're looking at a live view of the moon, our moon, from the Orion spacecraft and a camera on its solar array. Inside that spacecraft, 4 astronauts, Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen, the first 4 people to fly around the moon in over 50 years. This is our lunar flyby day, and the crew has already surpassed one record today. The crew passed the Apollo 13 distance record at 12:57 p.m. Central, 1:57 p.m. Eastern. Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen calling down that he hopes it's a record soon broken by other explorers. We are live in Artemis Mission Control in Houston, Texas, monitoring the flight of Artemis II. All of the flight controllers here, each monitoring a different system aboard the Orion spacecraft.
Integrity Houston, we are ready for our cabin and window teams to swap again. We have a 15-minute handover time here, and I have a couple of items I want to read up to you. They'll require you to write something down on your knee boards, so let me know when you're ready.
Okay, Houston, we are ready.
Copy, Integrity. First of all, once you start this next shift here, during this lunar observation shift, we will begin our lunar LOS, so you can expect a call from me a few minutes prior reminding you. And second of all, FIDO just sent us updated altitudes and METs for lunar closest approach and max Earth altitude. Let me know when you are ready to write those down. They differ slightly from Optimus.
Thanks, Jenny. We are ready to copy.
Lunar closest approach will be at MET 5 days, 0 hours, 25 minutes, 34 seconds, and the altitude will be 4,067 statute miles. Maximum Earth altitude will be at MET 5 days, 0 hours, 27 minutes, 39 seconds, with an altitude of 252,756 statute miles.
The crew really wants to ask for that in kilometers and in parsecs, but thank you for those. That is great. Thanks for that update.
I'll send Fido to work, and I appreciate the metric. Other than that, I have no new vehicle statuses to pass to you. Enjoy your handover time, and we're looking forward to picking back up with you shortly.
All right, we'll talk to you shortly.
Those words called from Capcom Jenny Gibbons, CSA astronaut and Artemis II backup crew member, to the crew working aboard the Orion spacecraft. Had a little bit of a view inside the cabin. As you can see, it is very dark. The crew has turned off the lights, and the light that you were able to see is coming through the window, a reflection of Earthshine and from the moon. The crew is moving into their next observation block, meaning they are taking time to switch cabin and window teams. We've had Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen at the windows taking pictures and making annotations and recording some audio files that will be downlinked later to the science team. Meanwhile, Victor Glover and Christina Cook were in the background serving as support. They were also timelined to enjoy a little bit of their midday meal. Now that we are swapping positions, the support team becomes Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen. They will be in the background helping with SD card swaps, as well as providing those situational reports to the science team. Victor Glover and Christina Cook will be the astronauts at the window, photographing and speaking into those PCDs, portable computing devices, about what they're seeing on the moon. As you heard Capcom Jenny Gibbons call to the crew, this block is also when we will lose communications with the crew. That LOS, or loss of signal, scheduled to be less than 35 minutes from now. We anticipate to be out of signal with them for about 40 minutes, and will regain that communication once they've flown around the other side of the moon. Now, even though the crew will be flying behind the moon, their observation period does not stop. They will still be taking pictures and making annotations of what they are seeing. They'll be looking for the limb of the moon, Earth set, and then Vavilov crater, which we have previously seen. They'll swap positions at the window before moving into a crew choice option. They will get to pick things that are interesting to them on the surface, take pictures, and explain why they find them that way. They'll also be looking for any impact flashes. These are short-lived flashes on the lunar surface caused by impact bombardment. Just before Earthrise, the crew will be looking for lofted lunar dust. This may be lofted just above the lunar surface, and we could only see it just before Earthrise along the dark western limb. Any Earthshine would illuminate potential lofted dust. But once the crew is all the way around the Earth, the brightness of the Earth will wash out any of that dust they might be able to see. These were based on observations from Apollo missions and orbital spacecraft, and so we're very interested to see if the crew might be able to capture some of that lunar dust today. Following that lofted lunar dust target, the next will be Earthrise. We will regain communications with the crew shortly after Earthrise. There will be a short observation break period where the moon is not in view. That's because we are also anticipating the crew seeing an eclipse today. The moon won't be in view because the team here in Mission Control Houston will need to change the attitude of the spacecraft and ensure that its solar arrays are gathering light from the sun heading into that eclipse period. So we will have communication with the crew, we just won't be able to see the moon. However, we will have views during that eclipse time frame. During that time, the science team is looking to know it will only be illuminated by Earthshine at that point. So they want to know what the whole moon looks like overall, but they also want the crew to look into deep space and potentially see if they can spot any planets. Once the eclipse is over, the lunar flyby period will have ended. We are live through the whole thing, and even once flyby is over today, we remain live 24/7 on NASA's YouTube.
Go ahead.
I don't know if Catherine and Devin are still there, but if they are, just wanted to just let them know how much fun we're having out here. It's extraordinary to be on the far side of the moon right now, just hanging out there and looking back at the Earth. And Ashley and Kaylin, I know you're back in Canada, but if you happen to be watching too, just wanted to say hi to all you guys. Love you guys, and we'll be heading back your way shortly.
Thanks, Jeremy. I hear they are watching, and your family is still here. So thanks for passing that along.
This view inside the Orion spacecraft, and it's a little hard to make out, but on the left there, that is Jeremy Hansen just calling down some well wishes to his family, joining us in the viewing room and watching online. Currently in the window are Victor Glover and Christina Cook. They are taking pictures outside of the window as they are now in their flyby observation block. At this time, Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen are serving as support crew members, and they are also going to have an opportunity to enjoy their midday meal at this time. On the lunch menu today for Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen, we have vegetarian chili, salmon croquettes, chicken with peanut sauce, sweet and savory kale, pickled beets, chocolate pudding, barbecued beef brisket, spaghetti and meat sauce, Italian vegetables, butternut squash, candy-coated chocolates, and maybe even a little bit of coffee. And if you look closely, you can see it looks like they are getting into some of their food for the midday meal. All of the food on the spacecraft is rehydratable. We don't have an option for fresh food as there's not a refrigerated section of the Orion spacecraft. So all of this food can either be rehydrated or eaten straight from the package, just depends on what the food actually is. And for food that needs to be rehydrated, there is information on each package of how much water needs to fill that bag and what temperature it needs to be. We are now 4 days, 23 hours, and 39 minutes, 40 minutes actually, into the flight of Artemis II, the spacecraft now under 4,500 miles from the moon. We are now also under 30 minutes away from loss of signal with the astronauts. We will regain that communication about 40 minutes later. They will still be photographing the moon and documenting what they're seeing while they're behind the moon. And we especially look forward to potential Earthset and Earthrise views. As you can see on the left side of your screen, we are streaming this solar array camera view throughout the flyby. And the science team also plans to capture an occasional still photo with the solar array intermittently, perhaps one every 8 to 10 minutes. Still photos represent the highest resolution imagery from those GoPro cameras. So starting 5 minutes before Earthset and loss of signal, the science team will capture a series of photos, one every 30 seconds, to include Earthset, all the way through 5 minutes after Earthrise and acquisition of signal. In order to capture these frequent photos, the solar array camera that we were streaming will need to switch to time-lapse photo mode. So during this time, the streaming video quality won't be as sharp as you have it right now, but we want to ensure that the science team captures the data that they need during these time frames. And we really look forward to seeing those higher resolution images once they're available. But with the view you are seeing right now, we are sharing bandwidth on the Orion spacecraft with every system that is keeping the spacecraft powered and the crew alive, especially the environmental control and life support system. As this is the first flight with crew, this is also the first flight of a life support system, keeping the crew healthy and safe on the way to the moon and the way home. On the timeline, we're getting towards the end of the cabin and window team swap period, but it looks like our astronauts, Victor Glover and Christina Cook, are already photographing the moon outside of those windows. The next target is Ohm Crater, and this is something that they have photographed previously during the flyby. This is a small, complex crater with a prominent ray system, and as referenced earlier, it's the size of the Eye of the Sahara. That Eye of the Sahara is a feature in Mauritania. Seeing this crater more than once throughout the flyby allows the crew to photograph it at different lighting conditions. Those different lighting conditions help expose different portions of the target and can help the science team learn a little bit more about how it formed and what it is today. Again, this view inside the spacecraft as the crew continues photographing the moon outside their windows. They have turned the lights off to allow them to better get photos of the moon, preventing any reflections from coming in from the spacecraft. We expect the crew to be targeting Ohm crater for another 6 minutes or so before they move into a discussion of the limb. Now, the science team has asked for a science sit rep or situation report during that time, so we hope to hear calls from the crew on what they are observing. If you've been following along, at the start of the day, we did have much more of the moon visible. And even just an hour or so ago, we could see about half of the moon. We are now continuing to see more of the far side and that darkness where the moon is not reflecting light from the sun. Earlier, we were also able to see some of those darker portions, that old lava flow that we often see on the near side of the moon and that we can all see from Earth. That has mostly gone away. We are now just seeing very little of Oriental. That's down to the bottom right of the moon. You can see just a small dark portion near the limb. We are now about 18 minutes away from loss of signal with the Orion crew. Again, we use the Deep Space Network to communicate with the crew members when they are this far from Earth. This is the first mission since Apollo when we have had humans on the Deep Space Network. As you recently heard Capcom Jenny Gibbons call to the crew, We expect their closest approach to the moon to be at MET, or mission elapsed time, of 5 days, 25 minutes, and 34 seconds. At that time, their altitude would be 4,067 statute miles above the Earth's surface. Just over 2 minutes later, they will reach their maximum distance from Earth. At mission elapsed time, 5 minutes, 5 days, 27 minutes, and 39 seconds. The altitude at that time would be 252,756 statute miles. These are our latest numbers, and we'll make sure to verify and confirm those once those milestones have been achieved. Obviously, we will be without communication to the spacecraft at that time, so once we regain communication, we will make sure to find out those numbers and report those to you. Checking in on the lunar targeting package, the crew is now in their discussion of the limb, seeing the limb of the moon, that illuminated part. Currently at the windows taking photos and making annotations are Victor Glover and Christina Cook. We are expecting loss of signal in about 13 minutes. We will regain that signal with the crew about 40 minutes later. A milestone worth mentioning that this day marks the first time in more than 50 years that humans will observe the moon directly, a critical opportunity to practice how lunar science will be conducted during future Artemis missions. I've continued to reference the lunar targeting package throughout this broadcast, which is the primary tool guiding the crew observations, and that consists of two key components. The first of those is the Lunar Geography Review, which helped the astronauts study major lunar features in advance. That also helped them learn to orient themselves during the flyby. The Lunar Targeting Plan provides a detailed timeline of observation targets, background science context, and specific instructions for the picture the crew should take, and verbal descriptions of what will be helpful to the science team reviewing those pictures later. That's what we've been tracking real time and what the crew is using right now to keep up with their next milestones.
Integrity Houston, 10 minutes till the LOS. We'll take a snappy sit rep from the cabin if you have one.
Okay, Jenny, that came, we missed most of that, but just a 10-minute warning, is that what you're saying?
10-minute warning for the LOS, and I'll take a quick sit rep from the cabin, please.
All right, cabin is still full of excitement. We've got Christina in window 2, Ike in Victor in window 3. Reed's actually been trying to get some images out of the docking tunnel. We can see the Earth and the Moon and part of the Moon out of the docking tunnel, which is pretty good. And I'm just grabbing some footage right now with our interior cameras.
Copy, Jeremy. We'd like to know what camera Reed is using and also the status of window 1. Looks like there might be a shroud removed.
Okay. Reed was using the Z9, and the T-shirt shroud is still on window 1, but we took the camera out of it, so maybe that's what you're noticing. But when I looked in there, I saw a lot of sunlight reflecting around.
Copy. That makes a lot of sense to us, Jeremy. I want to remind you, coming up on this LOS, that we'll take sit reps in the blind, and as more and more of the moon is in darkness, we will take any report you have on impact flashes.
All right, Jenny, you'll have to say again your last. There's a lot of conversation here, and I was on the other side of the cabin, so I missed all of it.
Look out for impact flashes, and we'll take sit reps in the blind.
Okay, impact flashes, sit reps in the blind. We got it. And yeah, just so you understand what's going on with window 1, there is light coming through the outer hall from window 2 into the inside of window one, if that makes sense. Like I can see the inside of the vehicle when I look between the two panes of glass.
Copy.
You're getting your first live look at Orion, the moon, and the Earth. Everyone in this picture. This is a live view from the Orion spacecraft. Currently aboard Orion, 4 crew members, Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen. And on the Earth, all of us, all of humanity. You can see the moon is starting to get a little bit dimmer as the astronauts are going to pass behind it. Now 6 minutes and 26 seconds away from that loss of signal. Again, we will be out of communication with them for about 40 minutes until they come around the other side of the moon and we can re-establish contact.
Integrity Houston, you are 6 minutes from your 40-minute lunar flyby LOS. From all of us, it's a privilege to witness you carrying the fire past our farthest reach. Thank you. Godspeed.
Thank you for that, Jenny. And thank you to all of you for allowing us the immense privilege to be on this journey together. It's quite amazing. And as we go on this journey, thinking about the NASA mission to explore the unknown in air and space, to innovate for the benefit of humanity, and to inspire the world through discovery. And as you've gone along on this journey with us, hopefully we're doing just those things. And as we get close to the nearest point to the moon and farthest point from Earth, as we continue to unlock the mysteries of the cosmos, I would like to remind you of one of the most important mysteries there on Earth, and that's love. Christ said in response to what was the greatest command, that it was to love God with all that you are. And he also, being a great teacher, said the second is equal to it, and that is to love your neighbor as yourself. And so, as we prepare to go out of radio communication, we're still to feel your love from Earth, and to all of you down there on Earth and around Earth, we love you from the moon.
Houston copies. We'll see you on the other side.
We will see you on the other side.
Poignant words from NASA astronaut Victor Glover, and a little bit of a love letter from the other side of the moon all the way to Earth. Glover touching on the teachings of Jesus, including to love your neighbor as yourself. We are now less than 3 minutes away from loss of signal with the Orion astronauts. The Artemis II crew will be out of signal for about 40 minutes as they are on the other side of the moon, continuing their work photographing the lunar surface, and they will reemerge, and we will also get this view on the other side. Just about a minute and a half now until we lose communication with the astronauts aboard Orion on the Artemis II mission. Now 5 days and 6 minutes since their launch on April 1st. Again, we'll be out of communication for about 40 minutes. And this really beautiful view of a crescent moon and a crescent Earth. How great thou art. "30 seconds now until we expect loss of signal. And we have confirmation of loss of signal of the Orion spacecraft as it flies behind the moon. We expect to regain communications with them in another approximately 40 minutes. This was expected as their spacecraft is now out of direct line of sight with Earth and behind the moon. And this is a poignant moment as it's the first time in over 50 years that we have humans completely unreachable by anyone else on Earth. No matter how distant or secluded, we could reach anyone living on Earth, but while the crew flies behind the moon, it's simply impossible to make contact with them. This is a live view inside the Science Evaluation Room here at Johnson Space Center and just down the hall from Mission Control. This team has been monitoring the flyby all day as the team has continued capturing targets on the lunar surface. We even got to see this team in action as they were helping the astronauts identify some of the features they were seeing on the moon but not expecting. There will be a couple of milestones during this loss of signal. The first will be when the astronauts make their closest approach of the moon. at MET 5 days, 25 minutes, and 34 seconds, when we expect they'll be 4,067 statute miles above the lunar surface. Their maximum Earth altitude will be reached just 2 minutes later, at 5 days, 27 minutes, and 39 seconds, when their altitude should be approximately 252,756 statute miles. Once those milestones are reached and we have confirmation, we will report the official numbers. Throughout the Artemis II mission, astronaut voice, images, video, and vital mission data must traverse thousands of miles carried on signals from NASA's powerful communications systems, the Near Space Network and the Deep Space Network. Let's learn a little bit more.
NASA's Artemis II will send 4 astronauts around the moon, preparing humanity for a long-term lunar presence and future journeys to Mars. Enabling communication and navigation for this test flight are NASA's Near Space Network and Deep Space Network. With antennas around the world and a fleet of relay satellites, the networks will deliver vital data to and from Earth through all phases of the mission. The networks are seamlessly integrated at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, where Mission Control coordinates the network handovers. These transfers represent a delicate dance between the two networks, exchanging support as the mission shoots toward the moon. On the launch pad and during their early orbit phases, NASA's Orion spacecraft and Space Launch System rocket will rely on communications and tracking services from the Near Space Network. After its translunar injection burn, the Deep Space Network's global array of antennas will serve as Orion's primary communication support during lunar orbit. As the mission journeys farther into space and away from Earth, signal strength weakens and bandwidth is conserved for crew communications. The astronauts will have a near constant connection to Earth, ensuring their safety on a journey farther into space than ever before. We say near constant because as Orion goes behind the moon, a planned loss in communications will occur. The Deep Space Network will be standing by to reacquire the signal as Orion reappears. The Artemis II mission also provides an opportunity to test new capabilities. Using laser links, NASA will periodically transmit Orion data to showcase the benefits laser communications could have for future human spaceflight missions. The data from Orion, sent by radio signals or laser links, is massive. The mission is gathering images, data, and video, while also generating details about mission health and crew voice files. All of that data gets processed here on Earth, where systems compress it for efficiency. In the future, we'll upgrade these systems on Earth so that image and video clarity improve with each moon mission. With the Artemis II test flight, we're evaluating the communications infrastructure that will help carry us into the future as we explore the moon and journey forward to Mars.
We are now about 33 minutes until we expect to regain communications with the astronauts aboard Orion. And in the meantime, I've got Dr. Kelsey Young, Artemis Science Flight Operations Lead, here with us. Thanks for joining me, Kelsey.
Thanks for having me. This is such an exciting day.
Oh, no kidding. It has been so cool to hear you communicating directly with the crew. And I know that you have been preparing for this for years, so I am so excited for you and for your team. So just to get into that background a little bit, tell me about your background and what you've been doing on console.
My background is as a field geologist. actually, I studied impact cratering in the field for my PhD. So all these descriptions of impact craters have me just absolutely swooning. How I got into this, though, is, during my PhD, I got an internship at NASA and ultimately never left to integrate science into flight operations. So we developed the Science Officer Console, for which this is the first mission we're supporting. We developed the Science Evaluation Room that's right upstairs. And so it's so gratifying to see this operation structure come to fruition, especially on a day like today.
I would have to imagine so. And we've got a great view of the Science Evaluation Room right now. Is there anything that has stood out to your team so far?
Absolutely. So as you might have heard in some of the press briefings and content that, we've been putting out, color and albedo were really exciting targets for us. We've heard several amazing color descriptions so far. Just to highlight maybe one of them, we heard about greenish and brownish hues near Aristarchus, which is actually a feature that we can see here from the near side. And those greenish hues could actually tell us something about the volcanic evolution of that area. So you can bet that the science team is going to be prioritizing downlinking those images and the crew audio that we didn't hear that went into those recordings to learn a little bit more.
Wow, that is fascinating. I was hearing those colors and very interested just from a personal standpoint, because looking at the moon from, 250,000 miles away, we don't see green or brown. So just hearing that, them being so close and getting to see that, fascinating, and I know very exciting for you. So what are you expecting to see in the upcoming portion of the flyby?
The upcoming portion is actually going to be really exciting. So right now, as we speak, while folks in the room are kind of taking their, their stretch breaks and everything, the crew are still hard at work. They still have targets to image and describe during this LOS. But when we come out, the first thing, of course, we're going to hear about is Earthrise. We're really looking forward to hearing about the crew's experience with something that we can connect with and that, Apollo 8 brought us such amazing images from. But then we start to get into describing the Terminator, as well as looking for things like lofted dust, which tell us about the modern lunar environment. Then the vehicle's going to orient away from the moon for an hour and then pivot back for the eclipse observations, which is a whole different set of science observations that we're really looking forward to.
It's kind of nice that the crew will get a little break in there, because they have been hitting it hard today with photos and videos and annotations. What are you hoping that the crew sees coming up? Is it that lunar dust?
Oh my goodness, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, we've already gotten such great descriptions. I mean, the Terminator seems to just be like one of their favorite things to look at and describe. So I feel like, that was something we were looking forward to. I feel like we've really gotten some great descriptions. So absolutely, I'm looking to the human moment of Earthrise. Lofted dust is an exciting one, and lofted dust will be a target for them in the right around the time of Earthrise, but again in the eclipse period. So I'm really looking forward to seeing. I mean, they've already highlighted just in the course of their flyby so far how the moon has changed, and this is going to be even more dramatic change to go from their end of this kind of lunar illuminated piece of the flyby into the eclipse time frame. And I can tell you they're going to be experiencing a very different moon during that time, and I can't wait to hear what their observations are.
Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating, and what a privilege that we get to do that on this mission, because that's not always the case. If we had launched on a different day other than April 1st or 2nd, we wouldn't have gotten to see that eclipse. Is that right?
That's correct. April 1st and 2nd. I will say, I was asked a lot in the weeks leading up to the launch, well, what's your favorite day? And my answer truly was, there is no bad day to launch to the moon. We were going to get great science out of it no matter what, but it's a really neat opportunity to, bring the sun into the picture, bring different planetary bodies into the picture while still literally keeping the moon in center stage.
Fascinating. So what differences are we looking for at each site? We're hearing a lot of different terms. We're looking at craters. We're looking at mare. What are the differences that you're hoping to see?
We do have, as you highlight, kind of different prompts for each target. That's what they're looking at in their lunar targeting plan, which I know you've been showing. And we have even different prompts for the person with the really long lens on the camera versus the people with the unaided eye. And you've heard the crew talk about, oh my goodness, when I go from one to the other, I can really detect different nuances. And that's something that we experienced in simulations, but hearing them actually, see it for real has been really gratifying. But we're looking for different things based on the target. Sometimes we're looking for color. Sometimes we're looking for texture. For the Terminator, we're looking at kind of what texture and morphologies pop out to you and what kind of diversity you see along the Terminator. You've heard, Victor especially make some comments about future impacts for exploration. So already I think that their descriptions in this first part of the flyby have told us something scientifically, but also about future surface missions.
Well,